Chapter 5499. At night, the little monkey came back and found out what had happened. He hugged Arbor and cried. After settling the children down to sleep, Xiao Mu instead tossed and turned on the bed, unable to fall asleep no matter what. A raging fire burned in her heart. She sat up on the bed in a flash. Mo Lien sat up as well. She held her little hand. Jojo can't sleep? How can I sleep when that curse master is scheming against me? This curse master had used a trick. He had sent Qin Chao and the bunch of brainless people to the Eastern Palace, but he had secretly ordered someone to place a life-ending talisman and activate it remotely. He had not shown himself, but he had forced her into a panic. He had even made Mo abandon half of her soul to save her. She had no choice but to return to her main soul as soon as possible. Arbor clenched her two little fists. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. Even I have to be careful when drawing this kind of saint-level life-ending talisman, Arbor said in a low voice. Because a heaven-level curse master and above is needed to activate the talisman. A life for a life. In other words, that mysterious curse master wanted to use this saint-level life-ending talisman to take Jojo's life. He had to sacrifice someone. Sacrifice himself? That was impossible. Thus, he had to sacrifice some unlucky curse master. The underworld court guards searched the streets and alleys. They reported that they had found Luo He's corpse in a dark alley. It was bleeding from all 7 orifices. The answer was self-evident. This Master Luo was the unlucky curse master. He had used a life for a life to drag Arbor down to hell together with him. Unfortunately, the curse master had miscalculated. Arbor was unscathed, but Mo had sacrificed herself for this. Thus, in the end, Arbor had lost this round. Her heart was filled with bone-deep hatred for that curse master. If she didn't kill him, she wouldn't be human. Little ball. The little tray ant knew that she was in a bad mood. After hearing its little master's call, it hurriedly crawled out of the star domain. Dodo ran between the two of them and waved its branch. Mistress, what are your orders? Give me the bone-forging pill you mentioned. Mo Lien was startled, and so was Little Tree. He asked blankly, Master, do you want to eat that sage-level bone-forging pill? Yes, no one below the Paragon stage can kill me. I want this bone-forging pill. But, compared to all the bone-forging pills in the past, this one is exceptionally dangerous. Why you also need to break your bones and regenerate them. Master, can you do it? Arbor smacked Chiochio's head in annoyance. Do you think your master can't do it? Chiochio immediately shook its head like a rattledrum. The main bank. Chiochio is just worried that Master Silver might be in danger. The little tray ant obediently took out a shiny golden pill from its tree pocket and handed it to Arbor. Arbor sensed the divine power inside the pill, took a deep breath, and reached out 2 fingers to take the pill. She thought for a moment and temporarily put the bone-forging pill into the fragrance pouch at her waist. After a few days of mental preparation, she would be able to take this pill very quickly. She had to quickly overcome the fear in her heart and face the past and the future. The little stoic clenched her fists and turned to look at Mo Lien, whose eyes were full of worry. Don't worry, Jojo's Lotus. If the other party uses the mirror image spirit locking formation again, your divine sense will be sealed. Mo Lien said gravely, at that time, you won't even be able to enter the star domain. I won't. I have the condensing light mirror, so it can't seal my divine sense. Chapter 5500. Mo Lien nodded, thinking that was true. His worry receded slightly, but he was still a bit uneasy. Thus, he grasped her hand and muttered, Jojo, are you really going? At noon, he even gave Ming Yasi a torrent of abuse, saying that he wouldn't take the risk. In the end, he immediately changed his mind after a night had passed. Lady Qiao Qiao nodded her head vigorously. After careful consideration, I have decided to make a trip there. Listen to me first. I'll bring people with me. I'll bring Senior Sister and the others. Feng Chongqing and the others, as well as Rotten Peach Blossom, will also be there. My star domain won't be sealed off by the mirror image soul-locking formation. At a critical moment, I only need to wave my hand, and everyone can come out to help. You, lead the Emperor's shadow guards to reinforce Duan Yu. This time, we'll coordinate from the inside and outside. We must annihilate them all. This way we can restore clarity to the world. Besides, the main battlefield is in the kingdom of Qingzhou this time, so it won't affect us. If we don't go this time, are we really going to wait for them to launch a counterattack and fight their way back to Dragonflame City? This way, who knew how many lives would be destroyed? Mo Lien knew that his wife's words were very reasonable, but he was unwilling to let her go alone. I want to go in with you. Duan Yu and Ming Yasi can coordinate from the outside. Arbor shook his head. I can only be at ease if you stay outside to preside over the overall situation. Mo Lien sighed and suddenly hugged her tightly. He muttered softly, How can you be so cunning? You clearly know that I can't refuse you at all. The little stoic blinked and pinched his handsome face. She said seriously, Don't worry, I'll definitely be more careful and won't fall into that damned curse practitioner's trap again. She just didn't know whether the person who used Luo He to secretly harm her was Master Yi who followed Sir Omega Kotoku or the mysterious Hall Master who never showed himself. No matter who it was, they were probably already dead in Arbor's eyes. Jojo, I believe in you. Mo Lien cupped her face and said softly, Don't let me down. You're not allowed to get hurt, and you're not allowed to have anything happen to you. Okay. Xiao Mu nodded her small head heavily. The two of them didn't sleep for almost the entire night, cuddling and talking for half the night. Early the next morning, Arbor took everyone and bid farewell to Jojo's Lotus. They sat on the Blue Phoenix and flew out of Dragonflame City. When Empress Bai and the Great Emperor arrived, their daughter-in-law was already far away. This infuriated the Emperor and Empress so much that they slapped the table and scolded their son for his carelessness. How could they let the little stoic go to the Qingzhou kingdom alone, where there were mountains of corpses and seas of blood? Arbor sat steadily on the back of the Blue Luan, flying in the air neither too fast nor too slow. Her mood was unusually calm for no reason. It was so calm that even she found it strange. Without any ripples, his state of mind was perfect. She even activated a defensive barrier to block out the wind and started drawing talismans out of boredom. Going through the front door was out of the question. Apparently, Duan Yu had erected a fort at the entrance of the West Pond in Qingzhou. Every day, he had people go up there to curse and yell, forcing Omega Kotoku to come out and fight. Yet the second young master had never paid attention to him all this time. Arbor hurried along while drawing talismans. She could already see the Qingzhou kingdom in the distance. The closer she got to the Qingzhou kingdom, the more she felt that the air was very polluted. The ending was finished, but the author needed to edit it a bit before reading it again, adding something or changing something. The ending would be released starting tomorrow, and it would be updated 6,000 plus times a day. It would probably be finished by the end of the month, so the author could take a break for a few days. After that, we'll enter the side story and scatter flowers in advance. Chapter 5501. Arbor forcefully swept away the billowing black fog drifting in front of her. She took out a porcelain bottle from her sleeve and stuffed 2 pills into her mouth. Then she expressionlessly stared at the city shrouded in dense dark clouds ahead. The heavenly kismet existed in such a dark, deformed, and perverted nook and cranny. She had prepared many great gifts for them. She wondered if Qin Hong, this old fellow, would be grateful. Qingwan let out a shrill cry and flapped its wings, charging into a layer of miasma. Arbor only felt her vision darken as she plunged into a place filled with black fog. The little stoic remained expressionless as she sat on Qingwan's back. If one looked down from above, they would see this little troublemaker holding a fist-sized luminous pearl in one hand while her entire body was enveloped in an eggshell defensive barrier. 3 layers of defensive talisman matrices were set up outside the eggshell, enveloping Qingwan as well. 1 person and 1 divine bird flew aimlessly along the spreading black fog. Arbor wasn't in a hurry. She took out a roasted corn from her pocket and took a bite before saying aloofly, "Big Green, get ready." If nothing unexpected happened, that Qin Hong should have received the news by now. The little stoic deliberately avoided Duan Yu's group's location and entered through the thick fog from above. The first to receive the news would definitely be the heavenly Kismet's higher-ups. If it wasn't Qin Hong, then it would be the Omega Kotoku. Didn't that Omega Kotoku tell her to come alone? They must have prepared their men early in the morning and arranged a place to wait for her to arrive. Right now, she brazenly entered Qingzhou's territory and landed at the West Pond's entrance in a very high-profile manner. When she turned her head, she saw 5 to 6 zombies wandering around in a daze. They turned their heads with difficulty and met her eyes. Qingwan transformed into a human and eagerly followed behind her. "Master, should we kill them?" Several whooshing sounds could be heard in the air. His little master had already started attacking without another word. The crow repeating crossbow in her hand shot out several crow gold arrows, directly piercing through those zombies' heads and causing them to fall to the ground in disarray. Arbor gracefully put away the crow repeating crossbow and moved his fingers. A surge of energy pulled the numerous black gold arrows into the air. They circled around in the air and returned to her side. Arbor leisurely released a wisp of water spirit, cleansing the few black gold arrows, then took them back. His eyes flickered as he glanced at a spot not far away. She heard a flurry of footsteps approaching, and a graceful and gorgeous red figure slowly walked up to Xiao Mu while leading a group of more than 100 men in black armor. She gazed at Xiao Mu indifferently. "Crown Princess, you've come from afar. Please excuse me for not going out to meet you." This Miss Zhao Qiran could be considered an old acquaintance of hers. When she was on Seikong Planet, she had been lurking in the Jade Hue brothel. It was said that she had always been in contact with Qin de Omega Kotoku's son. She was a talented woman who sold her skills but not her body. The little crown princess and this person had not interacted much before. Even if they had met a few times, they had only sized each other up and had never really exchanged more than a few words. Now that she saw Zhao Qiran, Arbor was not too surprised. "Where's Qin Hong? Tell him to scram out here." Arbor glanced disdainfully at the group of brawny men in black armor, and a trace of mockery curled at the corners of her mouth. "These little weaklings are not my match. It's best to have Qin Hong invite out that hidden charm master of his to come out." She liked to settle them all quickly so that these people would not jump out one by one and be troublesome. Chapter 5502. Zhao Qiran chuckled and said indifferently, "Crown Princess sure knows how to joke. Crown Prince Consort, please make a trip with Rand first." Zhao Qiran gestured for her to leave. Arbor glanced at her and suddenly threw 3 spiritual energy balls in her direction and shouted, "Explode." Then, with a swish, he quickly grabbed Qingwan and turned around to run. The poor Qingwan, who was eager to fight, was caught off guard by the little Master Silver and almost slipped to the ground. The corners of her mouth twitched as she ran. The sound of the spiritual energy balls exploding reverberated in the air of the West Pond and instantly attracted the attention of everyone around the base. Quite a number of people rushed over. When Xiao Mu saw that someone was coming, she didn't hesitate to throw a spiritual energy ball and explode it. Along the way, he threw more than 100 spiritual energy balls, blowing up the West Pond into a mess. It was a horrible sight to behold. Broken fences and broken walls were in ruins. When Qin Hong received the news and rushed over, he was so angry that his old face turned green. Fuck, he had seen arrogant people, but he had never seen such an arrogant and despotic person. She broke into their Tianyun headquarters alone and used spiritual energy balls to destroy everything. He wanted to see how many spiritual energy balls she had for her to smash all the way. Qin Hong didn't understand Jojo at all if he thought so. To Si Qiao, these spiritual energy balls were actually not of much use. The lowest level of spiritual energy balls she had stored was the divine energy ball. The spiritual energy balls were collected along the way when she was in the lower star region of the middle 6 prefectures. Normally, it was useless to keep it, but now it was useful to use it to blow up the zombies that were slow and not strong enough. Qin Hong led old steward Luo and the others to chase after her. His face was slightly distorted as he raised his finger and pointed forward. "Quick, take advantage of the fact that eldest brother and second brother haven't reacted yet and get rid of this disaster for me." It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. He was still thinking about how to get rid of this damn facial paralysis and help eldest brother and second brother break free from this damn inner demon. In the end, this bitch barged in on her own. No matter what her purpose was, she had to die here today. Arbor pulled Qing Yuan and ran for a while, blowing up the walls in front of them along the way, causing destruction. The two of them crawled out from a pile of dust, coughing and fanning the dust in front of them. Taking a closer look, they realized that their escape had led them straight to the farm. This was not a chicken, duck, or fish farm. What appeared in front of them was a wide pond. There were hundreds and thousands of half-naked undead hags soaking in the pool of special medicine. When they heard the sound, they all opened their eyes and looked in their direction. Qing Yuan was shocked. He raised his hand and threw out the last spiritual power ball in his hand. It landed right in the center of the pool. After a muffled explosion, the originally silent zombies suddenly seemed to have been revived. One by one, they struggled in the boiling pool and crawled to the shore. Run! Arbor pulled Qing Yuan, and the two of them rushed over the edge of the pool. While running, he hurriedly took out two 1-meter-long rods from his inner world and stuffed one into Qing Yuan's hand. The two of them swept the rods back and forth, directly knocking the dozens of zombies that crawled to the shore back into the pool. The sound of water splashing could be heard as the master and servant duo made their way over. Chapter 5503. Xiao Mu turned around and dug out 3 divine energy balls from her pocket, tossing them into the pool with all her might. The power of this explosion was different from the small spiritual power ball from before. The explosion of the divine power balls directly blew up 1/3 of the corpse puppets in the pool. Arbor looked back at the crystal cores that had rolled all over the ground. She struggled but finally gave up. She didn't run back to pick them up and hurriedly left with Qing Yuan. She had to be willing to give up to get something. Jojo muttered in her heart as she ran all the way to the gate that connected the West Pond to the main city. There were already hundreds of disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect waiting for her. Seeing her appear, one of them hurriedly screamed, "Quick, quick, the Lord has ordered us to stop this woman. Regardless of life or death, take her down first." At his command, everyone surged forward. Countless streams of divine energy and spiritual energy simultaneously converged in Xiao Mu's direction, forming a brilliant purple and crimson light. Arbor looked at them expressionlessly. With a wave of her hand, the Tianji treasure painting suddenly flew out of her consciousness. This Tianji treasure painting had been improved by her husband. The original divine weapon had been refined by her husband and was almost perfect as a divine weapon. When the 12th layer of the Tianji treasure painting was opened and the hidden weapons were released, this group of pitiful people above the spiritual realm in front of her simply became living targets. In an instant, thousands of gravel flew together and wiped away their vitality. Arbor didn't stop. She immediately ran to the city gate and threw a flying talisman to Qing Yuan. There was no need for Qing Yuan to transform again. The two directly used the flying talisman and jumped over the city gate that was thousands of feet high. The main city of the Qingzhou Kingdom was actually only a few hundred miles away from the West Pond, East Mountain, and other places. They could reach it in half a cup of tea's time with nimble legs. The entire Qingzhou Kingdom was about the same size as Dragon Flame City, but this Qingzhou Kingdom had always considered itself a kingdom. If the Heavenly Fate sect hadn't used them as a base, the Qingzhou Kingdom would have always existed at the border of the Tsang Prefecture. Although the Qingzhou Kingdom couldn't offend any of the Tsang Prefecture, it had always been famous for its wine. Qingzhou's wine was famous far and wide, and it was also a special tribute offered to the 3 prefectures every year. It was also because of this that their Qingzhou country, from the country king to the citizens, were all cautious. They never thought that one day their peaceful life would be disrupted in an instant. This peaceful country would be chosen by the upper echelons of the Heavenly Fate Organization and would be used to create zombies for the Heavenly Fate Organization to secretly plot a rebellion. Now, the entire Qing state, from top to bottom, had become the experimental base of Tianyun. Arbor turned around and looked at the city gate that was high up in the clouds. His eyes were dark and gloomy. "Open the city gates. Stop her with all your might. Don't let her run into the inner city of the main city." Qin Hong's exasperated voice came from outside the city gate. Qin Hong's speed was not slow either. At the same time, the city gate creaked, and the two towering iron gates were pulled open from the inside. Arbor turned around and saw the old man, Qin Hong, stepping on a plank-shaped flying spirit tool and crossing the city gate. His old face was tense as he chased after them. Qin Wan turned around and shouted, "Watch the ball." She raised her right hand and prepared to attack. Qin Hong hurriedly stretched out his arms to block in front of his eyes, and his whole body was covered with a layer of defensive spiritual aura. He was ready to be bombarded by the spiritual energy ball, but when he looked up. Chapter 5504. He saw the little stoic grabbing Qingwan and running away at lightning speed, and the two of them bounced over 1,000 meters away in an instant. The old man was so angry that his face turned green and white. He roared, "Chase after them. Go seal the main city district's central gate. Don't let the news in. Don't let those two rascals know that this disaster has come in. If those two rascals knew that this jinx had come, they would definitely run to find her at the first opportunity. If they saw that she was chasing Arbor with so many people, perhaps they wouldn't even be father and son anymore. What a headache." Second brother was also in the city today. If he knew, Qin Hong's head felt like it was about to split open. Arbor waved her arm forcefully. Qingwan, who was running at lightning speed beside her, couldn't help but twitch her mouth. She asked quietly, "Master, why don't we fly?" What was there to fly about? The effect of running was what he wanted. Run, run, run. Sir Jojo's little stoic face was taut as she expressionlessly called out several times. Qingwan's mouth twitched. Although she didn't understand what Little Master was doing, she inexplicably felt that Little Master was very, very powerful. She just had to run with her. Arbor ran at lightning speed around the central city, and Qin Hong led a group of Heavenly Fate black-armored soldiers to follow closely behind. Following them were large batches of emotionless zombies. There were no less than 4,000 to 5,000 of them. The black mass followed Qin Hong and chased after Arbor from all directions, running back and forth inside the central city. When Arbor saw that it was about time, she called for Qingwan to quickly transform and leaped onto Qingwan's back. Qin Hong was furious and roared at the sky. "Damn girl, do you think you can still escape from here alive today? Archers, get ready." On the city gate towers, inside the dilapidated pavilions, as long as it was high ground, hundreds and thousands of heads popped out in unison. With a whoosh, they aimed their bows at Qingwan and Arbor. At the same time, Arbor stood on Qingwan's back and looked down at the common people with apathetic eyes. Her voice was icy and heartless to the extreme. "Since this crown princess has come today, in that case, before all of you die, I have no intention of leaving." With a wave of her hand, a pure black pearl rose from her palm. Qin Hong's eyelids suddenly twitched, and a bad premonition arose spontaneously. The moment the heart of misfortune was activated, a heavy pressure instantly enveloped everyone below. Aside from the Qin Huan, who was still able to hold on, all the other disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect were bound by the oppressive force. They struggled and twisted their bodies in fear. The disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect who hadn't completely mutated and were still conscious immediately tried to escape this control. However, there was no way to escape. Once the heart of misfortune was activated, everything around it would be absorbed by it, except for its own master. Qin Hong suddenly stretched out his hand and summoned a huge black eagle. This giant eagle had a slender neck, a fist-sized head, 8 pairs of wings, and 4 pairs of hooked claws. As soon as it appeared, it blocked out all the light in the area. With a light flap of his wings, a violent gust of wind rose and quickly swept towards Arbor's side. However, what made Qin Hong depressed was that in the next second, he saw that the gust of wind caused by the harpy was directly absorbed by the heart of misfortune. It was absorbed. It didn't fall on Arbor at all. It was completely absorbed by the heart of misfortune. Chapter 5505. Immediately after, all the disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect who were enveloped by the light of misfortune below also began to be sucked into the realm of misfortune one by one. Arbor stood on Blue Phoenix's back and watched coldly as everyone screamed and screamed miserably as they were sucked into the realm of misfortune. Her expression was cold and unchanging. There was not the slightest fluctuation in her heart, as if what she saw was not a tragic scene in the human world. The fate of the disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect who were sucked into the realm of misfortune was not something she cared about. Until all the corpse puppets present, as well as the disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect, were sucked into the realm of misfortune. Arbor then frowned and looked at the giant harpy who was flapping its wings vigorously to create a gust of wind. Her gaze slowly fell on Qin Hong. The realm of misfortune absorbed thousands of corpse puppets and disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect, and now it was in a saturated state. It probably could not absorb anything in the short term, unless her divine perception once again made a qualitative leap. Or perhaps the last soul fragment was recovered. Arbor frowned and waved her hand to put away the heart of misfortune. She stared coldly at Qin Hong's pale old face. Damn it. Qin Hong clutched his chest. His face was pale as a sheet. The little stoic in front of him was really infuriating. She cheated. This fellow threw out a natural mystic realm's heart as soon as she came up and sucked in all the corpse puppets of the Heavenly Fate sect. Now, they really did not even need to fight. Qin Hong looked up and saw that there was not a single person in sight. He could not help but feel angry. Even the large number of archers he arranged were sucked in by the heart of misfortune. Arbor just casually used a mystic realm's heart to absorb 1/10 of their Heavenly Fate sect's power. Seeing her put away the mystic realm's heart, Qin Hong breathed a sigh of relief. This fellow did not continue to absorb it. It was definitely not because of her rotten kindness. It must be because the mystic realm's heart had to first digest all the things it sucked in. Damn it. Thinking of this, Qin Hong's old face instantly turned green. He suddenly raised his arm and shouted, "Mirror image God-locking array." Following his shout, black figures darted out from the corners one after another. They held ancient bronze mirrors in their hands as they swiftly shone them in Xiao Mu's direction. Various lights and shadows connected into a line and instantly intertwined, neatly forming a grid-like defense line, forming the mirror image God-locking array. Arbor glanced at it. Since she was already prepared, she naturally could not be locked. She activated her divine perception. Little ball. Master Silver, Master, don't panic. We have the light-condensing mirror in our hands. No one can lock Master's consciousness. Arbor nodded in satisfaction, but a cracked and panicked expression suddenly appeared on her stoic little face. She exclaimed, "Qin Hong, you despicable person. You used this shady mirror image God-locking array on this crown princess again. Do you think you can get away with it? I advise you not to be too smug." Qin Hong felt an inexplicable headache when he heard her yell a long sentence. When he saw her slightly panicked expression, a trace of smugness inevitably rose in his heart. Ah, damned stoic face. Even you have a day like this. I'm telling you. Once the mirror image God-locking array is activated, there's no way it can't lock you up. Chapter 5506. Haha. Are you panicking now? Do you feel like you can't use your divine sense? How does it feel to not be able to open your inner world? How does it feel to not be able to use the divine artifact hidden in your conscious? Qin Hong guffawed and swept a disdainful glance at Arbor. If you kneel down and kowtow now and admit your mistake, I can still leave you with an intact corpse. He had to avenge his great enmity. It was all his fault for not being prepared in time and not activating this mirror image spirit locking formation at the first moment. He wasted so much time talking nonsense with this little stoic and ended up losing 1/10 of his disciples and granddisciples. He really hated him to death. Hand over the heart of the mystic realm just now, Qin Hong said coldly. Perhaps I can still consider sparing your life. Of course, that was impossible. As soon as he thought of this demoness who caused his 2 sons to become mentally unstable, Qin Hong's heart burned with rage. He wished he could slap this woman to death right now. He was only fooling her. A cold light flickered in Qin Hong's eyes. Arbor was possessed by a drama queen again, but this time, she learned from her previous exaggerated performance and pretended to work very hard to use her divine sense. She whispered in a panic, divine sense? You damn old man, you clearly know that my conscience is locked, and you still want me to hand over the heart of misfortune? Are you sick? Qin Hong was taken aback and was instantly vexed. That's right, that damned stoic took back the heart of the mystic realm just now. It must have been stored in his inner world or his portable spirit domain. Yes, it was said that this damned stoic had a portable spirit domain on him. It was really too tempting. Unfortunately, she had to die here today. Otherwise, perhaps he could throw her into a laboratory and study her to see if he could extract her portable spirit domain and the heart of the mystic realm. Thinking of this, Qin Hong quickly rejected this idea in his heart. With how protective his two sons were of her, no, he couldn't let her live. It was even more impossible to turn her into a living experimental subject. Otherwise, those two troublesome little bastards might come knocking on his door to make trouble before the experiment even started. If this matter were to reach the ancestors' ears, then everything that had happened before would be impossible to suppress. Arbor couldn't help but blink when he saw Zhang Heng's sullen face. He asked curiously, "Why aren't you saying anything?" Qin Mu's eyes coldly swept over her. "Stupid girl, you're already at death's door, yet you still have the leisure to ask about other people's matters." Charles, who was possessed by the drama queen, suddenly screamed, "You old thing, you dare to kill me? You've got guts. You're just a cripple whose divine sense has been sealed. You only have a cultivation base, yet you dare to clamor in front of this old man? This old man only needs to press down with his spirit, and you won't be able to withstand it. Don't you want the heart of Arcana?" Of course, Qin Hong wanted it. He also wanted to release the disciples and granddisciples that had been absorbed by this dead-faced stoic. Qin Hong's eyelids twitched slightly, but his expression did not change. "You have a way?" Arbor nodded and hooked his finger at him. "Why don't you come closer? I'll tell you." Qin Hong glanced at her defensively. Yet he saw the little stoic expressionlessly cast him a disdainful look. "What? You don't even dare to approach someone whose divine sense has been sealed? It turns out this crown princess's accumulated power is this great. Bullshit." Qin Mu was so angry that he couldn't stop swearing. This dead-faced crown princess was truly infuriating. He hadn't even spoken 3 sentences with her, yet he felt his blood pressure suddenly shoot up. Chapter 5507. Then come, Arbor's eyes were scornful as he hooked his finger at him again. Qin Hong hesitated, but he still couldn't resist the temptation of the heart of the mystic realm. He hesitantly walked forward a few steps and slowly approached Arbor's side. "What exactly do you have to say? Don't give me that nonsense. I'm telling you, don't even think about stalling for time. This kind of trick is useless against this old man." Arbor cast a sidelong glance at Qin Hong with a cold little stoic face. In the blink of an eye, he pretended to take out a storage talisman and pretended to take out a thunderclap. The third move of the 9 Heavens lightning sword art, 10,000 swords returned to origin. In a split second, it drew upon the power of the lightning spirit between heaven and earth, and a huge sword blotted out the sky. There was a sizzling sound of thunder and lightning. Qin Hong stared in shock at the huge illusory sword hanging high in the air. With lightning speed, it chopped down towards his head. Qin Hong hastily activated several defensive devices. But he heard a series of loud clangs. Within minutes, several defensive barriers were split open by the thunderclap sword. An unstoppable, earth-shattering power of the lightning spirit soared from the sky and smashed down with a bang. Qin Hong was horrified and furious, and he hastily formed a partial godly armor over his head to block it. Unfortunately, this godly armor could only defend against ordinary power, but what he was facing now was the little stoic drawing upon the power of the lightning spirit that existed between heaven and earth. 2 clicks were heard. The little stoic's thunderclap sword immediately slashed open 2 slashes on the godly armor, and even the back of his shoulder blade was cut open. At the same time, this stoic face was especially deceitful and directly sprinkled a handful of unknown poisonous powder. With a whoosh, the white powder rippled in the air. Qin Hong had already sealed off his 5 senses at once, but this damn white powder seemed to have eyes and directly came into contact with his wounds, burrowing into them. Qin Hong was thoroughly shocked. His old face instantly turned purple, and a bad premonition grew wildly in his heart. He turned his head and touched the wound on his shoulder blade. Arbor, you actually used poison? Could this little stoic's methods be any more vicious and shameless? The fight was going well, but she suddenly scattered a handful of poison powder. She was simply despicable and shameless. Arbor was too lazy to pay attention to this person. Seeing that the poison powder had taken effect, he grabbed Thunder Flash, turned around, and hacked at him from top to bottom. The giant harpy on the other side saw this and wanted to swoop down from midair. However, it was blocked by the divine bird Qing Wan, and they started fighting on the spot. Arbor held Thunder Flash in his hand as he chased after Qin Hong and hacked at him expressionlessly. Qin Hong hurriedly fled in the direction of the center gate. He clenched his teeth and wanted to slip away first. At this moment, he did not know what kind of ghost poison he had been poisoned with. The situation at the scene was extremely unfavorable for him. He could not stay any longer. Qin Hong didn't know if it was his own mind playing tricks on him, but at this moment he felt that the injury on his shoulder blade seemed to be painful, numb, and itchy. It was extremely uncomfortable. He was so angry that his head spasmed. He leaped up, wanting to speed up and leave. However, he had only leaped up a few meters when he felt his head become heavy and his feet become light. His entire mind was in a daze as he fell from the sky. He crashed heavily onto the ground with a bang. He lifted his eyes, trying his best to glance at the little stoic, but he discovered that everything before him was a blur. In the end, that giant harpy did not have many human thoughts and did not know how to turn around and rescue his master. He didn't even look at Qin Hong and was teased by Qing Wan. Chapter 5508. This guy went all the way to the southwest, following Qing Wan as he fought and ran. In a short while he was far away. Qin Hong cursed this harpy's ancestors in his heart. No matter how he roared, the harpy had already run away with Qing Wan. Naturally, he would not pay attention to Qin Hong's roar. In just an instant, Qin Hong felt that his whole person was very unwell. This poison was very powerful. It might corrode the nerves. Now, in just a moment he only felt numb, itchy, sore, and painful all over. He lay on the ground and groaned in a low voice. Suddenly he felt a spiritual sword aura fall along his left arm. Qin Hong wanted to block it, but at this time, he could not even form the divine armor. Qin Hong was shocked. The tearing pain in his arm made him sit up straight reflexively. Ah! The sound of his left arm being cut off shocked Qin Hong again. A pair of blurry eyes that could not see anything clearly abruptly widened, and a hoarse yell came from his mouth. Xiao Mu, what did you do? Arbor, where are you? Come out. You despicable and shameless villain, you actually poisoned me. Arbor looked at Qin Hong with some surprise. He took out a handful of white powder from his pocket and directly sprinkled it down. So you're not a transcendent god. Her poison powder had no effect on people above the mystique venerable realm. So this Qin Hong looked powerful, but in fact he was just a paper tiger. He had not even broken through the mystique venerable realm. Or he had just broken through the transcendent god realm on the surface. In fact, the real cultivation inside was fake? Well, Tian Yun habitually used drugs to make people look strange. It was not impossible to develop a batch of drugs that could quickly make one reach the transcendent god realm. Arbor sighed and shook his head. You jump up and down, thinking about killing me all day long. Have you ever thought that this day would come? Arbor, don't be so proud. You're just lucky. Before Qin Hong could finish his sentence, he felt a sharp sword aura cut down his neck. Although he could not see, he was not stupid. When he felt the strong wind coming, he quickly rolled on the ground. He rolled to the side with an unsightly expression on his face. His left arm was bleeding profusely. Who would have thought that this vicious and merciless brat would chop off someone's head before they could even finish a conversation? Could it be that she didn't want to know who the higher-ups of the Heavenly Fate Organization were? Didn't she want to hear the story behind the Heavenly Fate Organization? How could this stoic face be so impatient? Xiao Mu expressionlessly glanced at him before raising her sword and charging forward without another word. Since he knew that the person in front of him was just pretending to be a transcendent god, Arbor's lips curled into a mocking smile. His cold eyes flashed slightly, and he arrived in front of Qin Hong. At the same time, the group of black-clothed men holding the bronze mirrors were almost stunned by the audacity of the little crown princess. This person didn't even say a word before he tried to kill their master. Shouldn't the usual routine be to first catch the person and then ask him about the whole story? However, the little stoic had a different routine. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Qin Hong. In any case, they had already come to this point. It was already an irreconcilable feud, so what was the point of talking nonsense? He sent people to kill her MO, so she killed him and all of them in return. Wasn't this a very normal thing? Could it be that heaven forbade people from fighting back? Chapter 5509. Why were these idiots looking at her with such strange gazes? It was as if she had done something disgraceful. Wasn't this what hubby meant by reciprocating politeness? Arbor's small stoic face was taut. She waved her hand, and the thunderclap sword abruptly rose, absorbing the lightning spirit energy surging in from all directions. Qin Hong, you're dead meat. Arbor chanted coldly in her heart and didn't say another word to Qin Hong. She directly executed the Nine Heavens Lightning Sword Art's third move. 10,000 swords returned to origin. The large sword projection hanging in the air slowly formed, and purple-red lightning suppressed and rolled in the surroundings. It was as if there were small purple lightning dragons soaring in the clouds, rolling back and forth in the black fog. The group of black-clothed men holding the ancient bronze mirror were greatly shocked. After all, not everyone could gather the lightning spirit energy so quickly and release this kind of big move in succession. Furthermore, this crown princess in front of them didn't seem to have any lightning spirit energy. So to say, it was actually this sword, this sacred weapon, that actively attracted the lightning spirit energy of heaven and earth. Not to mention these disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect with mediocre aptitudes. Even if an exceptionally talented aristocratic family's young master came here and saw this scene, he would probably be so envious and angry that he would vomit blood. What was this called? This couldn't be called strength at all. This was wealth, or who in the world would have the wealth to buy this ancient saint artifact? The little stoic, who didn't control the lightning spirit energy at all, relied on this sacred weapon in her hand to continuously release the ultimate move for the ages twice in a quarter of an hour. This time's 10,000 swords return to origin was even more turbulent and terrifying than the last time. The instant the large sword projection pressed down on the central city gate, it was pushed open from the inside with a creak. The two young masters, Qin Xian and Qin Xen, led a group of people and looked at this scene in astonishment. It was too fast. Thousands of lightning bolts converged into a large sword projection wrapped in purple-red light, and the instant the city gate opened, it swiftly beheaded Qin Hong. Fast, so fast that people didn't even have time to react. Everyone could only stare blankly at the beautiful woman with a frosty expression outside the city gate. The little stoic was dressed in crimson battle clothes and was currently standing next to the decapitated Qin Hong with her sword in hand. The sword was a good sword, not stained with a drop of blood. She was a peerless beauty, but her eyes were emotionless. Even though her red clothes were stained with blood, it was hard to tell whether the redness of her clothes was more intense or whether the bloodstains made her clothes redder. "I'm here for revenge." His icy cold voice was like a bead falling onto a jade plate, startling Qin Xen so much that her heart shrank. "If you have the guts, then hand over the mysterious hall master of the talisman spell hall. This crown princess wants to fight him to the death." The fan in eldest young Sir Qin's hand fell to the ground with a clatter. Only then did he react and hurriedly bend down to pick it up. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Why are you here?" He reflexively looked behind her. There was no one in sight. Apart from a group of black-clothed men who had been knocked to the ground by the power of lightning, There was no one else. She came here alone? The eldest young master was in disbelief. She? Was she crazy? Why did he come here alone? Why didn't Mo Lien, that guy, stop her? What was Duan Yu doing squatting outside the city gate? Why didn't he stop her? They were all blind. The little stoic kicked away Qin Hong's corpse like she was kicking a piece of flatbread, directly sending the headless corpse rolling to the side. Chapter 55:10. Dugu Ling stammered, Second young master, the patriarch was killed. Qin Xen naturally saw it long ago, but he was still extremely shocked and didn't know what to say. Seeing that the second young master didn't say anything, everyone stared blankly at the fiend nearby, completely at a loss for words. The little stoic was instantly impatient. I'm not looking for you. I'm looking for that cursed practitioner. Are you coming out or not? It was Dugu Ling who couldn't resist stammering. Our curse hall has many people. You're looking for which one? After saying that, he wished for nothing more than to slap himself. Why the hell are you stammering? Why are you intimidated by the little lady's aura? You're simply crazy. The place where the little stoic was standing right now was their heavenly fate's headquarters. She was alone, yet he was still stammering in front of her. It was simply too embarrassing. The curse practitioner that Qin Hong sent to kill me, get out here. The little stoic was concise and didn't want to waste words with them. Mo, whom she raised in the star domain, was killed by them just like that. Although Mo kept comforting her, saying that he would come back, who knew? Mo died because of Qin Hong, that old bitch. He wasn't a gentleman if he didn't avenge this grudge. Killing Qin Hong was the first step, and killing the curse practitioner that Qin Hong sent was the second step. The little stoic had a score to settle in her heart, and she had to calculate it clearly. Go invite Great Master Yi over, young Master Omega Kotoku ordered coldly. Great Master Yi? The little stoic was taken aback. The second young master explained aloofly, Yi Weisheng left for a day and a night 2 days ago. Now that I think about it, he should be the person you're looking for. He really was a good father. Young Master Omega Kotoku inwardly thought. He secretly sent people to cause trouble at the child's 1-month-old banquet behind everyone's back, right? Eldest young Master Qin was also pondering in his heart, it looks like father probably stepped on Jojo's tail. Otherwise, Jojo wouldn't come alone and talk about revenge every time he opened his mouth. I wonder who my father's men managed to get rid of? Could it be that they injured Mo Lien? First young master blinked and shook his head. The little stoic was so angry that she killed her father as soon as she attacked. It was evident that the situation was a bit serious. If Qin Hong was in heaven and knew that his 2 sons were thinking about this, he would probably be so angry that he would crawl out of the ground. They didn't want to avenge their father. Instead, they were wondering why Arbor was so angry. He was such a good son. The Raksha princess jumped to her feet and screamed with righteous indignation, Eldest young master, second young master. Xiaomu came knocking on our door so arrogantly and killed our master without a second word. We must avenge him. Young master, please send me out to battle. Princess Luosha clasped her hands and shrieked. The eldest young sir glanced at her with a spurious smile. Rakshasa, you can't possibly be thinking that the little stoic definitely isn't your match just because her divine sense has been sealed by the great mirror image god sealing formation, right? Don't forget, your kung fu is not as good as my father's. Princess Luosha's heart trembled, but she suppressed it on the surface and said calmly, Young master, you must be joking. This subordinate only wants to avenge my lord. I can't let my lord die in this bitch's hands in vain. Eldest young Master Qin cast her a glance. Princess Luosha only felt her heart turn cold, and she hastily cupped her fists and said, We absolutely can't let my lord die in vain. This stoic face is truly hateful. We absolutely can't let her off. Chapter 55:11. The young master's cold glance just now was truly a bit frightening, so the Raksha princess didn't dare to call her a bitch without thinking, so she cowardly changed her words. A low chuckle was heard from the side. The crowd parted slightly, and a peerlessly gorgeous man in purple walked over with a grin. His seductive eyes flitted past the stupefied Raksha princess. Since the Raksha princess is so cordial, then there's no harm in letting her accept the challenge. Eldest young Sir Chin couldn't resist knitting his brows. Long Yun, this guy, wanted to tire his Charl to death by taking turns. That wouldn't do. He had watched this little stoic grow up. Although she had foolishly walked into a trap and her previous cleverness had vanished without a trace, he still had to protect her. He couldn't allow a bunch of people to bully her. Eldest young Sir Chin, who was about to speak, heard Omega Kotoku's cold voice. Then I'll let you perform. The Raksha princess's glowing eyes stared intently at the smiling, handsome, and distinguished Long Yun. Before she could react, she was instantly doused with a basin of cold water. The Raksha princess couldn't help but widen her eyes, and her heart trembled in fright. What kind of joke was this? She merely wanted to perform in front of these young masters. At most, she was just shouting slogans. The young masters naturally knew how strong she was, so how could they let an egg like her run over and knock the stone stoic to death? She almost knelt down before young Sir Omega Kotoku. Last time, she was beaten by the little stoic until her parents couldn't recognize her. This time, she didn't want to be disfigured by the stoic again. Why, young sir, the Raksha princess stammered. Long Yun chuckled softly and was about to mock her when he heard the little stoic's stiff and icy voice. Scram! Does any Tom, Dick, or Harry have the right to fight with this crown princess? Everyone, can you not freaking be so arrogant in the enemy's camp? The eldest young Sir coughed lightly and was about to step up to mediate when he heard young Sir Omega Kotoku say coldly, Go! The Raksha princess knelt on the ground with a plop. Dead silence instantly descended on the scene. The second young master turned around and looked at her coldly, as if he was looking at a dead person. At this point, Princess Luosha knew that for the sake of Tian Yun and the second young master's face, she had to do it no matter what. Princess Raksha hurriedly got up from the ground and rushed to Arbor. Not afraid of you, Arbor? Eldest young Sir Chin's hand that was holding the fan stiffened, and his mouth involuntarily twitched. Rakshas's terrified face was actually even uglier and more humiliating than his refusal to fight. He was so scared that he was trembling all over, yet he was still so stubborn. I see that you came here alone. Presumably, you don't have any helpers. I'm so scared. What should I do? There was no turning back now. Arbor didn't wait for her to finish her nonsense. Without a word, he leaped forward and knocked Princess Luosha's head with his Thundercrash sword. Everyone, Princess Luosha staggered a step and kowtowed to the ground. She prostrated herself on the ground in young Sir Omega Kotoku's direction. Arbor took advantage of the momentum and arrived behind her but in one step before ruthlessly kicking her. The eldest young Sir couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his eyes. Then he heard Princess Luosha let out an earth-shattering shriek, and she shot toward Long Yun like a cannonball. Chapter 55:12. Young Sir Long helplessly dodged to the side. The Raksha princess crashed headfirst into the crowd with a thump. Dugu Ling, Seven Flowers, Gong Song Fong, everyone simultaneously scattered and ran in all directions. Almost reflexively, they emptied out an area and waited silently. They allowed the Raksha princess to crash to the ground with a thump. This crash was truly too loud. Everyone looked at her speechlessly, feeling that the Raksha princess's fall was a bit unbearable. In reality, the Raksha princess didn't even know where she was right now. She was flying in the sky? She was swimming in the sea? Where was she? Who was she? The Raksha princess lifted her head with a nosebleed. Her face was a bit dazed, as if she had become stupid from the head knock. A load of nonsense. After the little stoic sent her flying with a kick, she cursed furiously. A pair of pitch-black eyes coldly swept over the Omega Kotoku group in front of her before ultimately landing on the Raksha princess, who was standing up shakily. The little stoic abruptly leaped up like an arrow, dashing toward the Raksha princess's back with thunderclap raised high in her hand. Eldest young Sir Chin hastily pulled Fan Meng, who was standing next to him, and the group once again dispersed at the fastest speed. They left behind a circular empty space in the center for the unlucky Raksha princess, who was all alone with her back facing Sir Jojo. It looked like this sword was about to strike a certain someone's head again. The Raksha princess abruptly turned around and knelt in front of Arbor with a plop. She hugged her calf and wailed tearfully, Crown Princess, please be magnanimous and don't strike my head again. I'll really be an idiot if you strike my head again." She finally saw through it now. The little Crown Princess looked at eldest young Sir Qin, young Sir Omega Kotoku, young Sir Dugaling, Vice Hall Master Meng, and the others standing here all by themselves. But in reality, she was freaking Raksha who was all alone. Why the hell did she want to run her mouth and say that she wanted to avenge the Lord? Avenge what? She'd almost reported herself to death. Eldest young master's lips twitched as he stared at Princess Raksha. Suddenly, an angry roar came from the side. "Rakshasa, what are you doing? Get up." The crowd silently parted again. At this time, a man walked out from the city gate. He was about the same age as Qin Hong. Behind him was the graceful Miss Ran. Zhao Qiran looked calmly at Arbor, a complicated expression flitting through her eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation was out of control, she wouldn't have asked Second Master to come out. Now, she lowered her head, almost not daring to meet the second young master's sharp gaze. Second Master took a few steps forward with a cold face. Following behind him were two tall and sturdy men. One of them was an old man in a green robe with white hair and bangs parted in the middle. Arbor was too lazy to pay attention to the Second Master, but his gaze fell on the green-robed old man. The old man had a faint aura of talisman power flowing around him. It was too obvious. So much so that Xiao Mu immediately recognized her. "You're Yi Weixing?" Sir Jojo asked with a solemn face. Hearing by reputation was not as good as meeting in person. This talisman master who had been at odds with her since Sikong Planet finally appeared in front of her. Black Cat and Chu Chingfei's master, 10 FA's grandmaster. This great master Ye's disciples and granddisciples had spared no effort in plotting against her, from the lower star domain to the middle 6 prefectures and then to the upper 3 prefectures. They had fought with her many times and wanted to kill her at every turn. He finally appeared. Chapter 55-13. Duan Yu led 30,000 elites from the 3 prefectures and several 100,000 soldiers to station at the outskirts of Qingzhou's eastern reservoir. It was nearing evening, and the sun was setting in the west. 8th young Master Qi hastily lifted the curtain and walked inside before bowing. "Has the underground passageway been completely opened?" A certain person, who was wearing a thin white robe and had her hair loosely tied into a bundle, was currently leaning against a large tiger-skin chair. Her jade-like fingers were flipping through the map in front of her. She didn't even look up when she heard the footsteps and merely inquired aloofly. "Reporting to Your Majesty, the Crown Prince of the Divine Province has arrived." Duan Yu's hand paused in the middle of flipping through the map, and he looked up at 8th young Master Qi with a frown. "Who did you say came?" "We have come." Mo Lien lifted the tent flap with one hand and walked inside expressionlessly. Duan Yu glared at her before flipping over and sitting upright. "Where's Jojo?" The aloof little person in Mo Lien's heart instantly jumped out. She pressed down on another small person that resembled Duan Yu and forcefully knocked on his head with a loud thud. "I'll beat you to death for asking about my wife so brazenly. I'll beat you to death. Beat you to death. What are you thinking about with your expressionless face?" Duan Yu tilted his head and suspiciously glanced at him. This guy had a taut face the moment he entered and didn't say anything. Why was he acting aloof just by standing there and avoiding the cold air? Prince Mo walked over and sat down across from him. "What's the current situation?" "There are tens of thousands of harpies densely set up above the Qingzhou kingdom, and they are reinforced by a formation. If we advance blindly, we will probably suffer. And judging from the terrain, they dug a passageway here, so there should be a corpse-nurturing ground below. We originally planned to break in from here, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to completely open the passageway after so many days. I suspect they have a backup plan in the near future, But we don't know what they are planning after brewing for so long. Duan Yu couldn't resist glaring at Emo Lien after saying everything in one go. Why are you interrupting? I'm asking you, Jojo. He was baffled. She didn't want to talk to him at all, so why did he interrupt? Emo Lien tapped on the map on the table. Duan Yu moved closer to take a look, and his expression abruptly changed as he glared at him in disbelief. You let her go in by herself? Emo Lien expressionlessly looked at Duan Yu. There are nearly 3,000 people in the Star Domain, including the Holy Water Sect and the Feng clan. But there are tens of thousands of corpse puppets inside. There are also tens of thousands of Yu court guards and 200,000 Divine Prefecture soldiers in the storage talisman. Duan Yu, the corners of 8th young Master Chi's mouth twitched. Duan Yu merely pretended not to hear Emo Lien's words. He calmly spread out the map and pointed at a spot in the center. I estimate that the tunnel should be dug open by tomorrow night. When the time comes, we'll bring our men here. Let's enter the city from the east first. When the time comes, use the God's stone cannon to blast open the middle gate and enter directly. Emo Lien gave him a non-committal look. Didn't you just say that this Tian Yun might make a big move? I wanted to wait a little longer, but we can't wait now. Duan Yu directly rolled his eyes at him and grumpily said, Jojo is inside, so I'm worried. Scram. This person's words were especially loathsome. He felt so stifled when he heard him call him Jojo. Scramius. Duan Yu directly ignored him and tossed the map to the side. He asked, I haven't been eating or sleeping well these past few days. Chapter 55:14. Did Jojo prepare good food for me? 8th young Master Chi. He really couldn't bear to look at His Majesty's adorably dumb appearance. Although he was a bit irritated these days because the siege was progressing slowly, how could he not provide for Your Majesty's daily necessities? Emo Lien expressionlessly took out a storage talisman from her pocket and slapped it in front of Duan Yu. You only know how to eat. Hurry and get down to business after eating. Hui Feng turned around and grinned at 8th young Master Chi, who was trying to stifle his laughter. 8th brother Chi, Our Highness and Your Majesty get along like this. Let's not worry about it and help Our Highness arrange a tent first. Okay, this way please. 8th young Master Chi quickly nodded and left with Hui Feng. Duan Yu silently took out a row of dishes from the storage talisman and a bowl of sacred rice. He then looked up at the expressionless Emo Lien. How could you bear to let her run to such a dangerous place by herself? This guy's eyes brightened after eating a mouthful of fish. This was his favorite colorful divine fish, and this fish was roasted quite well. It wasn't Jojo's cooking. Emo Lien glanced at him and also sat down. She took out a clean bowl and chopsticks. You think I wanted to? You're too unbiased. If you have a stance, why don't I see you stopping her? Me? Duan Yu was confused as he looked at the person across from him in astonishment. Did this guy have no sense of shame? Did he know beforehand that Jojo would go to the Qingzhou base, the zombies' base camp? Emo Lien harumphed. Even if you knew beforehand, could you stop her? You're even more unprincipled than me. Who are you laughing at? He thought irritably. What if I'm saying what if? Duan Yu scooped half a bowl of fish soup for himself with a ladle and couldn't resist asking quietly, what if Jojo was? He made a hand gesture and stared at Emo Lien nervously. What should we do? Do you think Jojo is stupid? She brought the light condensing mirror. Being locked once was enough. If she was locked a second time, what was she if not stupid? That's true. Duan Yu nodded in agreement. Jojo is extraordinarily intelligent, so she definitely won't be tricked by others. Emo Lien said in his heart, I was afraid that my wife would be possessed by a drama queen like last time. Her acting would be very fake and people would see through her. But have you ever thought about it? That Omega Kotoku is crazy. He might do something extreme to Jojo. How dare he? Emo Lien put down her chopsticks and frowned. Her emotions were fluctuating. Hurry up with that tunnel of yours. Dig it overnight. They're working on it as soon as possible. Duan Yu couldn't resist rolling his eyes. It should be ready by noon tomorrow at the earliest. On the other side, Arbor coldly stared at that gray-haired elderly man in a green robe. This elderly man had a head of short hair parted in the middle and wore a tight-fitting green robe with arrow sleeves, which made him look vigorous despite his age. His eyes were sharp and his spirit was hale and hearty, and his back was ramrod straight. Arbor coldly stared at the other party, a merciless flame dancing in her eyes. "Yi Weisheng, old man, do you dare to step out and fight this crown princess?" The white-haired elderly man, Master Yi, narrowed his eyes and looked up to stare deeply at Arbor. This stare was filled with countless peculiar emotions. Chapter 55:15. Little girl, this old man doesn't want to bully the weak. Great Master Yi coldly refused. "You can," without another word, Arbor tossed out a dazzling golden attack talisman at Great Master Yi's face. Great Master Yi was truly shocked, and he swiftly dodged backward. He hastily tossed out a handful of jade talismans to form a defensive talisman matrix, barely blocking that golden light. With a crisp bang, the defensive talisman matrix instantly vanished under the golden light's impact. Yi Weisheng truly jumped in fright, and his entire body practically shuddered. When she focused her eyes again, she only saw the little stoic crown prince Consort coldly glaring at her, her eyes brimming with ridicule. That's right, it was such a joke to say that he was bullying the weak. The little stoic's strength was evident as soon as she made a move. This first round of contact already forced this great Master Yi into a fluster and almost made a fool of himself in front of Second Master. When Second Master of the Qin estate saw this, he immediately berated, "You audacious woman, who exactly are you to dare come to our Qingzhou base alone to cause trouble? Do you know where this place is?" As soon as he finished speaking, the little stoic immediately tossed a dazzling divine power ball at him. Previously, she had practically thrown out all the spiritual power balls in her inventory, so she started throwing divine power balls now. Once she threw out all the divine power balls, she could start throwing holy power balls. Yes, that's right. Not only did she have several tens of millions of divine power balls, but she also had divine power balls made by the Divine Province's Nether Court guards and members of the Phoenix tribe. She also had Jichen, the Peony Fairy, Boundless Saber, Venerable Immortal Jinshang, and the other board Transcendent God Realms who made several thousand holy power balls. If you asked her what she had the most in her star domain, it would naturally be the various offensive and defensive treasures that could be used for consumption. She also had a lot of talismans, curses, and pills. Now, with so many divine power balls and holy power balls, it wasn't that the little stoic was bragging. In fact, she had enough capital to challenge the Heavenly Fate sect alone. Besides, she really wasn't alone. No one would believe her even if she said it. Everyone would think that her divine sense and star domain were sealed, forcing her to take out a storage talisman to store it. Actually, she had always kept a low profile and didn't really want to be in the limelight. However, if someone were to stop her from challenging the Grand Charm Master, then she could only let him die first. Because it was too annoying, he didn't want to listen to their long-winded chatter. If you want to fight, then fight. Why do you have to spout nonsense every time? As this thought flashed through the little stoic's mind, she had already made the first move. At the same time that this fellow threw out the God Power Ball, he had already taken a step forward and quickly rushed in front of Master Yi. Lightning flashed like a baton, smashing Grandmaster Yi's head to death. Grandmaster Yi probably didn't expect to meet such a straightforward person. For a moment, he was a little flustered and confused. He had seen the power of the Thunderclap sword from afar, so he naturally did not dare to directly receive it with his hands. Pieces of jade talismans suddenly appeared around him and lined up in rows and columns. They slowly floated up and down and coiled around his body to form a solid armor formation. When the Thunderclap sword came crashing down, it was blocked by the jade talisman formation and immediately bounced back several inches. However, it quickly attacked again, and its speed was even faster than before. Every time it bounced back, it would rapidly slash down in less than a few seconds. It was so fast that it was dazzling. Grandmaster Yi really wanted to ridicule it as a freak. However, he didn't have time to think about anything else. Every time the Thunderclap sword came crashing down, It would destroy several of his jade talismans. Chapter 55:16. This forced him to replenish the jade talisman formations on him as soon as possible. Jade talismans were consumed one after another, causing his old face to twitch and his heart to ache. One had to know that these jade talismans required a very long time just to draw them. He could only draw 2 to 3 of these god-rank defensive jade talismans in a single night. Yet in less than a quarter of an hour, the number of jade talismans he had consumed, the number of jade talismans destroyed by that damn stoic face's sword, reached as many as 10. Simply hateful. Grandmaster Yi couldn't resist berating angrily, "Junior, why aren't you stopping?" This damn stoic face was seriously too arrogant. Who exactly gave her the guts to be so impudent in Heavenly Fortune's headquarters? Second Master Qin Ao glowered at Arbor and snorted coldly. "Qin Exen, Qin Xian, what are you two standing there foolishly for? Don't tell me you're going to be merciful to someone who barged into the headquarters? Why aren't you attacking yet? Capture him first. When they received the news just now, didn't they say that this intruder's divine sense was already under control? Why did it look like that's right?" Qin Ao couldn't resist sneering. The other party was a high-level talisman practitioner. He just didn't know who would emerge victorious between her and Grandmaster Yi. Eldest young Sir Qin glanced at Qin Ao with a troubled expression. "Second uncle, the little stoic is challenging Grandmaster Yi, so it's best if we don't interfere. Let's wait for them to finish their fight first." Qin Ao was instantly enraged, and he turned to glare fiercely at the eldest young sir. "Are you—" A sudden clap of thunder made him jump in fright, and Qin Ao's curses were instantly swallowed back into his throat. When he looked back, he saw that Grandmaster Ye's head had been cleaved by the thunderclap sword. Although he used many defensive spirit tools to block it, Grandmaster Yi had also set up 2 layers of defensive talisman matrices around him. However, a flower of blood still blossomed mercilessly from the little stoic's attack. Qin Ao roared in anger, "Quick! Someone come quickly and treat Grandmaster Yi. You guys?" Qin Ao held back his anger and pointed at Dugu Ling, 7 Flowers, and the rest who were standing motionlessly in front of him. "Are you all dead?" These people were actually enjoying the show and didn't mind blowing things up. All of them retreated far away, leaving an empty space in the center, allowing that stoic-faced little crown princess to do as she pleased. He didn't interfere or make a move. He just watched silently. Since when did their Heavenly Fate headquarters have so many onlookers? "You're too weak," Arbor said coldly. "If you hadn't used Luo He as a bait to create a life-ending charm, my Mo Yi wouldn't have been killed by you. I'm going to kill you now to avenge my friend. Do you agree?" Everyone looked at the guy in front of them with a dumbfounded expression. Grandmaster Yi was dumbfounded and speechless. When the little stoic asked this question, she was especially serious, and her eyes revealed a bit of heavy fury. Eldest young Sir Qin's mouth twitched, and he hastily covered his handsome face with his fan. Actually, it would have been better if the little stoic didn't ask. Which idiot would agree to someone else killing them? Unless their brain was damaged. "Since you don't have any objections, then eat one of my charms as well." A cold glint flitted through the little stoic's eyes, and she suddenly waved her hand. "I came back late today, so I didn't have time to edit a portion of the content. I'll post it together tomorrow after editing it." Chapter 55:17. A streak of golden light instantly drilled into Great Master Yi. "Be careful!" Qin Ao hastily shouted. But right now, Qin Xian and the others were all standing there as spectators. None of them would help. Even if Qin Ao dared to rush up, she didn't dare to casually receive a talisman of unknown origin. Hence, she could only stand there and shout, "Be careful!" The talisman flew toward Yi Weisheng at the speed of light in a split second. Yi Weisheng's lips curled as he formed talisman seals with both hands. His robes rapidly swayed as he rapidly blocked the talisman rushing toward him. Everyone only saw defensive talismans being thrown in front of Yi Weisheng, simultaneously blocking the other party's torrential curse power. 4 defensive talismans in succession seemed to block that torrential curse power. However, The little stoic extended 2 slender fingers. Her robes fluttered, and her eyes were cold as she casually drew talismans floating with golden light in the air. She softly said, "Go," and streaks of unknown talismans as thin as leaves broke through the other party's defensive talisman matrix with a whoosh and mercilessly rushed between Yi Weisheng's brows. Soul-seizing talisman. The instant the talisman entered Yi Weisheng's body, his mind instantly reacted. The legendary saint-rank soul-seizing talisman? And it was even a saint-rank soul-seizing talisman drawn out of thin air. Was this kind of monstrously talented disciple specially born by the heavens to ridicule the mediocrity of all living things? The power of soul-seizing was quite enormous, especially since the other party drew more than 1 soul-seizing talisman. After 3 soul-seizing talismans fell, Yi Weisheng spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed to the ground. Arbor held Thunderclap in one hand as he withdrew his talisman, drawing in the air. He coldly stared at Yi Weisheng on the ground. Seal. The little stoic clenched her hand into a fist and drew a sealing talisman in the direction of a flowing talisman to her left, directly sealing Yi Weisheng's hastily fleeing soul in her hand. Accompany my MO in death. Even if I cut you into 1,000 pieces, it won't be enough to dispel the hatred in my heart. Arbor stared at the ball of ghostly fire in his left hand and sneered, directly throwing him into the stronghold's pagoda of punishment. Others naturally didn't know and only thought that she sealed Yi Weisheng's soul and stuffed it into her personal storage talisman. Qin Ao pointed at Arbor and shouted in fury, You? He was truly too audacious. Not only did this woman barge into the Tianyun headquarters alone, she even brazenly killed Qin Hong and Yi Weisheng. Take him down! Qin Ao roared with a cold face. The surroundings were as silent as chickens. Everyone looked at each other, but no one moved. Qin Ao was even more furious now. He glared angrily at Gong Songfeng, 7 Flowers, and the others. You guys, do you dare to openly defy the ancestors' orders? Take him down. 7 Flowers glanced at their eldest young master. Dugu Ling, Tang Quan, and Tang Li all looked at young master Omega Kotoku. Qin Ao was embarrassed. He had tried to take him down twice, but no one listened to him. Isn't this a fucking joke? Qin Xian, Qin Xin. Are you 2 trying to rebel? On behalf of the Patriarch, I order the 2 of you to capture her. Now, immediately. Qin Ao roared angrily. As the angry roar fell, a large group of black-armored guards suddenly surged out from behind Qin Ao, roaring as they quickly surrounded him. Qin Ao's expression eased slightly. Finally, he didn't have to put on a one-man show with this order. There was some reaction from the back, which saved him from embarrassment. The black-armored guards swarmed forward in a fan-shaped formation, encircling the little stoic alone inside. Chapter 55-18. Arbor expressionlessly looked ahead, his icy gaze moving past them inch by inch. The black-armored guards were wrapped in layers of black armor and black scarves, so their true appearances couldn't be seen. However, Arbor could clearly sense from the aura exuding from these people that they probably hadn't mutated. It could be seen that the forces in Tianyun's hands weren't all zombie armies. Zhao Qiran glanced at Arbor with a complicated expression before slowly lowering her head. The little stoic's small face was cold as she emotionlessly watched the several hundred weapons aimed at her. She slowly took a step forward. The fan-shaped encirclement couldn't help but simultaneously take a step back. When she took another step forward, the group of black-armored guards couldn't help but take another step back. Until Qin Ao angrily roared, "What are you retreating for? Stand firm. None of you are allowed to retreat. Do you hear me?" The black-armored guards standing in the front row couldn't help but tremble slightly with their weapons. If the little stoic took another step forward, she would inevitably bump into the sharp weapons in their hands. At that time, this little stoic crown princess would probably be injured, and none of them would have a good ending. "Do you think I won't recognize you just because you're hiding?" Arbor suddenly spoke, his tone extremely icy and resolute. "Look at all of you, your cultivations aren't ordinary. You must be the Long clan and Lin clan members who fled to Tianyun." Arbor's gaze swept around and landed on a person in the front row. Emo Shikong, do you think I can't recognize who you are just because you're masked? You're too disappointing. Arbor's tone carried mockery as he said disdainfully, say, you're a grand prince who fled the capital to join Tianyun, but how come you can't even become a small ringleader? You're truly regressing as you live. You don't want to be a proper prince, but instead, you're a lackey who loves Tianyun. Shut up. Emo Shikong, whose identity was exposed by her, couldn't help but berate angrily. Emo Shikong was indeed standing among this group of black-armored soldiers. His face had a trace of depression as he stared at Arbor strangely. Arbor couldn't be bothered to tell him that even if his entire body was wrapped in that layer of black leather and his face was covered with 18 layers of veils, with her current eyesight, she would still be able to see him clearly. What a joke! He even hid his head and tail and stuffed himself into the black armor. Did he think that no one would recognize him? Wasn't it just some people from the aristocratic families of the 3 prefectures who sought refuge with the Heavenly Fate Empire and didn't want to show their faces? These people were really funny. They thought that once they came into contact with Tianyun, they would be able to reach the sky in a single bound. They didn't expect that even a person like Emo Shikong could only be a nominal little brother in Tianyun. Chin Ao pointed at Arbor and shouted angrily, "Why are you talking to her? Why aren't you taking him down? Do you want the ancestor to personally appear and instruct you on what to do?" Emo Shikong secretly gritted his teeth and took the lead to step forward with his sword. However, before the tip of his sword could even get close to the little face, a bolt of lightning and fire shot out from the side and chopped the sword in his hand into 2 with a whoosh. Chin Xian's face was cold as he suddenly reached out and grabbed Arbor's arm. Grabbing her, he entered through the central gate and headed straight for the inner city. Chin Ao was stunned and couldn't help but jump back and scold, "Chin Xian, you bastard! Are you really going to rebel? No wonder. Previously, there was news that said that you went to the Pingjin Prairie and destroyed all the lilies that the organization painstakingly cultivated." Chin Ao's gaze landed on the Omega Kotoku's finger. Chapter 55-19. The little stoic knitted her brows and turned to look at Chin Ao, who was cursing loudly, a chilly glint flitting across her eyes. The second young master was currently tightly grasping the little stoic's wrist and dragging her towards the inner city. He didn't even look back and completely ignored Chin Ao's cursing as he chased after them. Chin Ao couldn't conceal his agitation under his furious expression. The venerable ancestor was in need of people, yet Big Brother died inexplicably. Now, even Big Brother's stunningly talented son was walking on a path of no return. Then, was he the only one who could shoulder the responsibility for the future after Tianyun? Shouldn't he be the one in charge of all the operations? I thought you were creating rumors to stir up trouble, but I didn't expect that there's no smoke without fire. You greedy thing, you actually dare to betray the venerable ancestor for this woman? Chin Xian, stop right there. Are you listening to Second Uncle? Second Uncle. Eldest young Master Chin stopped him with a chuckle. Don't curse anymore. Second brother knows his limits. What limits could he possibly have? Didn't you see what he did just now? I told them to capture that damn stoic, but what happened in the end? Chin Xian actually interfered. He really doesn't respect the venerable ancestor. Chin Ao couldn't conceal his excitement. He glared fiercely at eldest young Master Chin. Don't offend your younger brother. I must report this matter to the venerable ancestor. Right, report it now. Ha, Chin Xian, this rascal actually courted death himself. That was truly great. He would overthrow him first, then drag eldest young Master Chin down with him. Then all the remaining power would be his, ha. After being illuminated by eldest brother's halo for so long, he finally had a chance to shine, ha. Eldest young Master Chin looked at this second uncle of his, and he could practically discern his thoughts from his expression. This person was truly foolish. Chin Xian shook his head and closed the folding fan in his hand. He said with a grin, "Let's go." Fan Meng nodded and turned to look at Chin Ao, who was still secretly laughing. "Young master, don't we need to deal with him?" Second brother will deal with the aftermath of the trouble he caused. Eldest young Master Qin waved his hand and said calmly, "We'll go where?" The eldest young master's footsteps paused slightly. If he boldly went to visit the little stoic at this time, he would probably be beaten out by second brother, right? Fan Meng lowered her head and gently bit her lower lip. "Young master, do you think something will happen to the little stoic?" "What can happen to the little stoic?" Eldest young Sir Qin pondered for a moment before saying, "Let's go to Crane Garden to take a look." Fan Meng quickly nodded. Just now, the second young master had fiercely dragged the little stoic away. Although the little stoic had a calm expression, why was it so worrisome? At this time, Omega Kotoku had already dragged the little stoic all the way back to Crane Garden where he was currently staying. The little stoic knitted her brows apathetically and forcefully swung her small hand, using all her strength to finally shake off the man's hand. "What are you doing?" she angrily roared. "Don't think that I can let you do whatever you want just because I don't have divine sense and my cultivation is not as good as yours. I'm telling you, if you dare." Qin Exen closed in on her and abruptly grabbed her slender wrist, glaring viciously at the woman in front of her. "So, even if you're about to be beaten to death, you won't ask for help? You're the one who's going to be beaten to death." Chapter 55-20. Just now, when Qin Ao rushed over with his men and was surrounded by so many people, the little stoic didn't reveal the slightest intention of asking him for help. Even if there was only the slightest intention of asking for help, perhaps he wouldn't be so angry. The little stoic swung her hand irritably. "I'm warning you, hurry and let go." "And if I don't?" An ominous glint appeared in the little stoic's eyes, and she kicked him. "I'll kill you." Dugaling saw this scene as soon as he stepped in. The second young master was kicked in the leg by the little demon god, and then several more times in succession. Dugaling. "I suddenly feel like I'm a bit redundant. I shouldn't appear now, so how do I deal with this?" The two brothers, Tang Quan and Tang Li, crashed into Dugaling's dumbstruck figure and pushed him into the door. Qin Exen was in the midst of a violent rage when she suddenly turned around and roared, "All of you, scram!" Arbor stomped on him angrily and abruptly took out a storage talisman with a wave of his hand. A glittering silver dagger flew out from it, and his eyes were fiendish. "You son of a bitch, are you going to let go or not?" The dagger slashed at the place where the two of them were holding hands. If this dagger slashed down, Qin Xian's 5 fingers would be broken, and the little stoic's wrist would also be broken. Duguling couldn't resist exclaiming, "Stoic, calm down." However, Qin Exen let go first and turned around to avoid the dagger that she abruptly stabbed at him again. He raised his hand and directly swept it away. That dagger left a bloody mark on his palm. Qin Exen didn't feel the slightest bit of pain, but she felt like her heart was stabbed by something. She really didn't want to have the slightest bit of contact with him. "Second young master." Dugaling hastily ran forward and called out to Ouyang Su, who had just stepped in. Quick, Ouyang, quickly come and take a look at this injury." "No need." Qin Exen brushed him aside indifferently, and her icy gaze landed on Arbor. She said word by word, "You really don't want the holy wood fragment, your wisp of soul remembrance, is that it?" The little stoic was startled, and then she sneered icily, "Would you be so kind as to give it to me?" "If you say, I won't believe anything you say." Arbor interrupted him mercilessly, "The holy wood shard is my soul remembrance. Take it if you want. Even if it's destroyed, I won't even frown. You think I'm here to throw myself into a trap? Let me tell you, when the time comes, even if I have to self-destruct, I will drag you all down with me." Qin Exen stared at her blankly for a long time before she suddenly smiled. Arbor thought to himself, why is this smile so scary? His face was full of sorrow and desolation. If another woman who loved him saw this, she would probably be heartbroken. But not only did the little stoic not feel anything, she even felt that this person was especially pretentious. It was annoying to watch. What was going on with that expression of someone who had been deeply hurt by her and bullied to the point that he wished he could die? Wasn't he the one who had been pestering and annoying her all this time? She had already told him not to get close to her, not to get close to her. Did he not understand human language? She already said that she didn't want to have anything to do with him in this lifetime. Arbor, have I ever told you that you're very heartless? When you're heartless, you're scarier than anyone else in this world. You've said it now, the little stoic said expressionlessly. Dugaling's heart couldn't help but tremble when he heard this. Yes, too heartless. Chapter 55:21. No matter who it was, they would not be able to say anything more heartless than Xiao Mu towards this picturesque second young master. The second young master suddenly pulled her in front of him, a light green glint appearing in his icy eyes. You're very good, Arbor. He grabbed her chin and enunciated each word clearly. I'll make you remember. Our matters, everything between us. I will use my own method to prove to you that no matter if it's that Mo Lien or that Duan Yu, none of them are as deeply in love with you as I am. You will understand, Arbor. You know that the entanglement between us isn't limited to this lifetime. After saying this, he ignored her resentful kicks and directly dragged this vexing little stoic into an empty room, personally locking the door behind him. When he turned around, he saw Duguling's hesitant expression. What do you want to say? Young master, the little stoic, she is amenable to coaxing but not coercion. Amenable to coaxing but not coercion? You're wrong, this little thing clearly isn't amenable to coaxing or coercion. Young Master Omega Kotoku sneered and sized him up. You seem to understand her very well. Seeing his unfriendly gaze, Ouyang Su hastily stepped forward and bowed in greeting. Young master, you should treat the wound on your hand first. The wound was bleeding nonstop. The blood flowed very slowly, but it gradually turned into a strange color. It was no longer crimson and seemed to have a few traces of dark green. The second young master sneered and bent down to lick the wound on his hand. It can heal itself. This was probably the benefit of mutating. His body was stronger than before, and he was probably the only one who knew the changes inside. Eldest young master. Two servants' whispers came from outside the door. Second young master said he won't see you today, Eldest young master, eldest young master? Qin Xen looked up and saw her elder brother waving the folding fan in his hand as he strode into the courtyard with a grin. The two servants guarding the door were knocked to the ground by Gong Songfeng's group. They looked terrified and didn't dare to make a sound. Stand down. Second young master Qin's apathetic gaze swept across the two servants who had collapsed on the ground, and he waved his hand indifferently. The two of them heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly retreated. Forcing them to stop, eldest young Master Qin had already exhausted all of their courage. Now that he heard Omega Kotoku's words, he felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Eldest young Sir Qin crossed the threshold and scanned the courtyard. Where is she? You don't have to interfere in this matter, young Master Omega Kotoku said coldly. Second brother, do you know what second uncle said before he left? Eldest young Sir Qin rolled his eyes in exasperation. He said that he was going to report you to Ancestor. What time is it now? You still have the mood to stay here leisurely? Why don't you hurry up and take a look in front of the Ancestor and see what nonsense second uncle said? Humph, the old Ancestor is still in closed-door cultivation. He doesn't have the chance to talk nonsense, Qin Xan said coldly. Eldest young Master Qin was strolling in the courtyard. Where's Jojo? I told her about this matter. Eldest young Sir Qin floated to the second young master with a swish and looked at him carefully and seriously. Second brother, you've interacted with the little stoic quite a bit, so you should know what kind of explosive temper she has, right? If you really plan to use force, I'm afraid she'll fight to the death with you and make you lose both your woman and wealth. Young Master Omega Kotoku pursed his lips and stared coldly at his elder brother. He said coldly, I know my limits. Chapter 55:22. What sense of propriety do you have? Look at how your eyes are burning with fury. Aren't you just adding fuel to the fire by confronting her like this? Eldest young Sir Qin waved his folding fan and blocked Qin Xen. How about you let me have a good talk with the little stoic? You're strong, but she's stronger. She won't submit to you. Besides, you need to go take care of second uncle's matters. You don't really want him to report you to the venerable ancestor and make you unable to turn back, right? Besides, don't you need to explain to the venerable ancestor about father's death? Chin Xian's handsome face was cold, and he left without looking back. Where's Chin Ao? Eldest young Sir Chin couldn't resist rolling his eyes when he saw him leave like this. He looked around the court and said, "Go look for him." 7 Flowers quickly dashed out. Dugu Ling was about to stop him when Fan Meng reached out to stop him. She said aloofly, "Even second young sir didn't stop our eldest young sir, so why are you stopping him?" Soon, red clothes and green clothes arrived together, and they glanced at the people present with odd expressions. "Speak frankly." Eldest young Sir Chin knitted his brows. Could it be that they couldn't find the little stoic in the court? That was impossible. Second brother had dragged her all the way back, so he must have thrown her into the guest room and locked her up. He had red clothes and the others look around, so how could they not find her? Red clothes was speechless, and he coughed lightly before saying, "She's in the wing room over there. But she seems to have fallen asleep." Eldest young Sir Chin. They were still worried and ran over to take a look. Looking in through the caltrop flower window, they saw the little stoic lying down in her clothes, wrapping herself up like a cicada pupa. Her entire body was curled up in the blankets, and only her clean small face was exposed. She was still expressionless as she slept, and the muslin curtains that drooped to the ground undulated slightly in the wind outside the window. Eldest young Sir Chin couldn't resist rolling his eyes. Royal guards. 2 black-armored guards jumped down from the other side of the window with a whoosh. These 2 people were actually quite speechless when the second young sir arranged for them to watch over the little stoic here. They thought that this little crown princess would definitely kick up a fuss and jump up and down after being captured and locked in a room. Who would have expected as soon as he entered the room, he began to make the bed. Then, he rolled onto it and went to sleep. The 2 of them hadn't told the second young master about the commotion outside and the little stoic sleeping. Hong Yi looked at eldest young master helplessly. "Young master, should we wake her up for a chat? What kind of creature was this?" She was actually able to sleep in the enemy's base camp after being locked up in a room by the enemy. Wasn't this ambition a little too big? Eldest young Sir Chin glanced at her through the window and waved his hand, saying, "Let her sleep. Let's go sit in the forecourt for a while." Everyone was speechless. Was this stoic person a hostage or an honored guest? Arbor hadn't fallen asleep at all. She knew that eldest young Master Chin and the others had been strolling around and chatting outside the window. She pretended to turn her back to the window and used her divine sense to communicate with the sapling. "Chiu, there's always someone guarding outside. Why did you let Tao Hua and the rest out without anyone noticing?" "Master, you can ask Venerable Peach Blossom, Feng Chongqing, and the others to use a transformation talisman to transform into a small animal or something. Then you can sneak out." That won't do. Arbor hastily vetoed. Although their movements wouldn't seem to be restricted if they transformed into an animal and ran out, it wouldn't be easy to take away even if they found the sapling's fragment and her soul remembrance. After all, the transformation talisman's duration was still very long. Chapter 55-23. If she became a defenseless animal, wouldn't she be at the mercy of others? No. It was better not to harm them. Then, Chiu, go knock out the 2 people outside? Arbor hastily stopped her. "We can't alert the enemy. Wait first." She hadn't even seen that important and mysterious hall master of the talisman incantation hall. She had to think of a way to meet this person. According to Chin Xian and Qin Xian, the biggest leader behind the Tianyun Empire should be that patriarch. Who exactly was this patriarch? He had never shown his face from beginning to end. She had infiltrated the enemy's ranks now to figure out the ins and outs of these people. Even if she couldn't catch all of them in one fell swoop, she had to at least figure out who this patriarch was. "Chiu, tell Rotten Peach Blossom and the others to calm down. Don't come out until the right time." Chiu stammered for a while. They're a little unsettled, master. Chiu can only do my best to dissuade them. Especially when Mo Shikang and the others had surrounded little master earlier, esteemed Peach Blossom divinity had almost jumped out. If not for Chiu's sharp eyes and quick hands stopping her in time, her identity would have been exposed long ago and the Tianyun Empire would know that master's conscience had never been sealed. Arbor considered for a while. Chiu, if I directly mention that I want to meet their patriarch, how confident do you think I will be? Chiu said righteously, Master, His Highness the Crown Prince told you not to act alone. Chiu thinks that you should be obedient. Calm down first. When His Highness the Crown Prince and the others attack the city and gather, you'll definitely see who the Tianyun Patriarch is. Master, Chiu, I beg you, quickly rein in your curiosity. Arbor snorted and didn't say anything else. On the other side, Zhao Qiran walked into Crane Garden's courtyard and saw eldest young Sir Qin sitting under a flowering tree in the courtyard, flipping through a book. The sunlight was just right. White steam rose from a teacup in front of eldest young Sir Qin, and he was holding a book. He truly looked like a picturesque beauty. Zhao Qiran walked up and bowed. The two people who followed behind her hurriedly bowed to eldest young Sir Qin as well. Eldest young Sir Qin raised his head to glance at them. Miss Ran has arrived, but second brother isn't here right now. Zhao Qiran smiled faintly. Ran didn't come to find second young master. Please forgive me, eldest young master. Ran still has matters to attend to. Please excuse me. Eldest young master Qin raised his chin slightly. Fan Meng's figure flashed and appeared in front of her. May I know what Miss Ran wants? Zhao Qiran was neither servile nor overbearing. This subordinate is here on second master's orders to bring him back. Fan Meng stopped her and said indifferently, There's no need for that. Miss Ran, please go back. Young master, the person is in second young master's court. If I want to take him away, I don't think I need your permission. Zhao Qiran, that person was left in the courtyard by our second young master. You can't have that person just because you want it. Du Guling couldn't help but interject. I have second master's warrant. Zhao Qiran took out an iron tablet from her pocket and showed it to everyone. Second master is also here on Patriarch's orders to bring him back. If eldest young master doesn't believe me, you can go ask Patriarch. Zhao Qiran's expression was serene, as if she didn't care about everyone's obstruction at all. She was very confident that no one could refuse her request to bring someone back once this iron tablet was issued. This was indeed the transmission token that Patriarch had given second master. Chapter 55-24. Du Guling's gaze chilled. The second young master was the one who brought them back, so no one could recklessly come to the second young master's court to take them away. That would be openly slapping the second young master's face. Not even Omega Kotoku or the venerable ancestor. Long Min, Long Chong, Zhao Qiran said aloofly. Search them. The youth named Long Chong looked up, unable to conceal the perverted excitement in his eyes. Du Guling said coldly, Trespassers of Crane Garden, die. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Quan, Tang Li, and a group of experts jumped down from the rooftops and surrounded Long Min, Long Chong, and the others with cold gazes. Long Min was alarmed and hastily tugged at her younger brother, indicating for him not to act rashly. Long Min was a smart person. Although she was very displeased with that stoic face for harming her Long family to this extent, she still considered the pros and cons. But at least she knew how to weigh the pros and cons in front of her. She knew when to make a move and when to pretend to be a coward. Zhao Qiran came to bring them back on the venerable ancestor's orders, but the problem was that the second young master's subordinates were not to be trifled with. There were no less than a dozen Transcendence Realm experts here. How could they possibly deal with them? Zhao Qiran coldly stared at Du Guling's group and said word by word, Young Master Dugu, you can't be thinking of becoming enemies with the entire Tianyun, right? Sir Jojo was lying on the bed and could vaguely hear the commotion coming from the front courtyard. However, with her personality of not moving if she could, she truly couldn't be bothered to care. Perhaps there was internal strife in Tianyun? Previously, she saw that eldest Qin Omega Kotoku's second uncle didn't seem to be a good person. He didn't seem to get along with the two zither young masters. Furthermore, they didn't seem to be on good terms with each other, whether it was the flying heaven, burrowing earth, or the star-picking hall. If she could infiltrate the enemy's ranks and cause them to fall apart, then things would probably be much easier to handle. A strange fragrance suddenly wafted into the little stoic's nose, causing her nose to twitch involuntarily. This smell seemed to be the special poisonous powder on Ding Ting Ding's body. That's right, this person carried poison from head to toe and had an innate strange fragrance that fused with the fire-Qilin fanged snake's poison. Sir Jojo couldn't move. At this moment, other than her mind being especially clear-headed, her limbs were a bit numb, and it was very strenuous to move them. A faint sigh appeared beside her. "I just knew that you little imp was pretending." A slender index finger poked the little stoic's forehead. "I'm guessing that your conscious pool wasn't sealed at all. Don't be in a hurry to recruit people. I just want to talk to you for a while." Just a few words, young Master Long turned around and sat down on the edge of the bed. "I'll leave after you answer my questions. If you don't want to see me, I'll never appear in front of you again." Facial paralysis. "If I hadn't approached you in a joking manner, teased you, and unintentionally hurt your mother, would you have treated me better?" he said softly as his gaze fell on her face. If only he hadn't sent out that invader's challenge letter back then. Then he wouldn't have met her. Or, if they had met in another way, would the ending have been better? Arbor was stunned. His dark eyes were filled with a ferocious light. How could there be so many ifs? If possible, he really didn't want to meet these people. Troublesome. "When I met you in the Mystic Beast Forest, you were under some kind of curse, right?" Long Yun smiled bitterly at him. "After that, you completely lost this memory, right?" Chapter 55-25. The little stoic's small face was cold. She opened her small mouth and spat out, "Nonsense. Don't be so stubborn." Long Yun looked at her and sighed. "You don't remember when my mother sent the North Altar Protector to kill you, right? Ding Xian was simply a lunatic. So she had once tried to kill her in the Mystic Beast Forest? How could the two of them have any interactions at that time? She only sent some protector to kill her. Most importantly, Sir Jojo. She actually knew nothing about this matter." "Your mother is an abnormal person," the little stoic coldly said. She then knitted her brows and stared at young Sir Long. She asked uncertainly, "She thinks I stole her son, right? I heard that there's a type of woman who raises a child by herself and has an abnormal desire to control their child. I always felt that your mother's mental state wasn't too normal. It must be so." Long Yun, "My mother was poisoned by that vicious woman from the Long family with the passion-severing poison. I've been carrying this poison since I was a fetus." Arbor couldn't help but be enraged. "I didn't do it either. What right does your mother have to do this to me? Her mental illness is acting up and she doesn't like anyone." "Long Yun, why do I freaking feel that talking to you is so tiring? Can't you think about what the symptoms of the passion-severing poison are? You're such a blockhead that you can't even understand." Inside the star domain, Venerable Peach Blossom and Feng Changqing, who were desperately stopped by Qiuqiu to make them listen to Sir Jojo's orders, silently looked at each other. Murong Sun couldn't resist covering her eyes and muttering to herself, "It's still that punk who's two-faced and knows how to strike first to gain the upper hand." Otherwise, with her disciple's adorably slow-witted personality and slow comprehension of emotions, let alone having a child, she probably wouldn't even have a partner right now. "What are you doing here?" The door to the room was kicked open, and Qin Xeng quickly entered with a cold expression. When he saw Xiaoyan looking at him with a paralyzed face, he didn't know why, but he actually heaved a sigh of relief. She was really worried that Long Yun would act recklessly. It was said that as long as the source of the love-severing poison was eliminated, he would slowly return to a peaceful life. Thinking about it, once the love-severing poison entered the body, it would be like being cut by 1,000 knives and 10,000 ants gnawing at one's heart. As long as the root, Jojo, was eliminated, time would dilute all feelings. This was why Ding Xian wanted to kill Xiaomu back then. It was just that she did not understand why the Charl was talking to Long Yun like a chicken talking to a duck. She felt that it was funny and sad at the same time. You go out first. I have something to say to Jojo, the second son said coldly. Long Yun glanced at Duguling, who was standing at the door, and walked out with a sneer. Omega Kotoku, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get him far away. He came back too quickly. It could be seen that even if this person went out to do something, he didn't just place 2 spies outside the door. To be able to rush back as soon as he received the news, this person cared more about Arbor than he showed. Seeing that Long Yun had left, young Master Omega Kotoku flicked his sleeves and closed the door. With a raise of his hand, a light yellow sapling floated above his palm. Jojo, how about we discuss a business deal? Chiyo immediately exploded with joy in the little stoic's conscience. Master, it's our family's little Seven. It's little Seven without a doubt. Look at her, she's so pitiful and drooping. She's been ridiculously ravaged by someone. I received news that Sikong Fuling will lead people to set fire to Duan Yu's camp tonight. Chapter 55-26. Rewind time to 30 minutes ago. The Qin estate's second master had just led a group of people to the patriarch's place of seclusion, but the moment he left his residence, he was surrounded by Qin Xin and his men. Qin Ao's expression froze, and he subconsciously took a step back. Pointing at Qin Xin, he angrily said, Qin Xin, you brought so many people here. Do you really want to completely break off relations with our Tianyun? Qin Xin didn't waste time talking nonsense with him. With a wave of his hand, a short and stout man holding a purple gold hammer chuckled and rushed forward with several dozen subordinates. The crowd directly waved the weapons in their hands, and all the shrimp soldiers and crab generals around Omega Kotoku fell to the ground. Qin Ao's expression changed. Seeing the one-sided situation, he couldn't help but shout hoarsely, Qin Xin, you disgraceful scoundrel. Previously, you looked on helplessly as your father was beaten to death, but you didn't stop it. And now you want to kill your second uncle. Before he could finish his sentence, his pupils suddenly shrank. Young Master Omega Kotoku suddenly flashed in front of him at an extremely terrifying speed. 5 fingers that seemed fair but were actually as hard as iron suddenly grasped his throat. In an instant, Qin Ao's belly full of words were all stuck in his throat, and he couldn't clamor anymore. Previously, Qin Xin had rushed to Omega Kotoku's residence after leaving Crane Garden's gate, because he knew that his elder brother was right. If he didn't take advantage of this time to control this troublemaking second uncle, he might really complain to the patriarch and accuse him to death. Of course, he wasn't afraid of this person going to complain. Capable people, no matter what kind of storm they face, can still remain indifferent. For example, right now, this second uncle, who was jumping up and down, was like a pheasant struggling on its deathbed when his neck was grabbed. He had no ability to resist at all. The second young master had always been disdainful of people who weren't on the same level as him. It was as easy as flipping his hand for him to pinch this noisy second uncle to death. Qin Ao's pupils shrank in disbelief. Now that his life was in the other party's hands, it was extremely difficult for him to concentrate and focus his gaze on the second young master. He really wanted to beg, but unfortunately his neck was being held, and he couldn't even make a simple sound. Qin Ao was astonished. He probably didn't expect that his nephew would attack him right under the nose of the heavenly fate patriarch. Only now did he finally understand that there seemed to be nothing in this world that could restrain this second young master. Even that famous ancestor of theirs didn't seem to be a supreme existence in the eyes of the second young master. His eyes, the 2 jade-green springs, were like rippling emerald lakes. Qin Ao's eyes widened in fright as he stared at Qin Xin, who was looking at him from a short distance away in astonishment. A loud sound came from his throat. Second uncle, if you're willing to tuck your tail between your legs and behave yourself, I don't mind taking care of you when you're old. The cold voice of the Omega Kotoku rang in Qin Ao's ears. It was as if the bell of death had rung for him. Qin Ao couldn't help but tremble from head to toe in shock. Qin Ao really wanted to open his mouth and ask him what he meant. He even wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy, but soon, He knew that he would never have such an opportunity in this lifetime. Chapter 55:27. The last sound he clearly heard was the crisp sound of his neck bone breaking. There was no then. The second young master loosened his fingers and glanced indifferently at his white jade-like fingers. He heard the muffled sound of Chin Ao's corpse falling to the ground. The second young master didn't even look at this second uncle, as if the life he took wasn't his blood-related second uncle's life. And it was merely an insignificant ant on the side of the street. The plump man holding the purple gold hammer chuckled mischievously while rubbing the back of his head. He bowed to the second young master and then waved his hand, ordering people to drag Chin Ao's corpse outside. As for how to deal with it, his subordinates would handle it. This Chin Ao normally relied on the venerable ancestor's support and truly jumped up and down without a care in the world. On his deathbed, he should be able to understand a principle. It was useless no matter who looked after him. He was a weakling and would be crushed by others wherever he went. What a pitiful man. The young master of Omega Kotoku collected his chaotic thoughts. His gaze landed on the little stoic, and he lifted his hand to help her sit up. On his left palm, a wilted sapling was currently bending at an inconceivable degree, its branches coyly extending toward the little stoic. Chin Exen raised her hand slightly and allowed that crooked and ugly sapling to hop onto Arbor's body. Arbor was somewhat surprised and glanced at Chin Exen. She indeed didn't expect that Chin Exen would hand over the sapling's final shard to her just like this. Someone had previously fed this shard with blood and forced it to produce a semi-finished holy fruit. It was currently severely injured. It would be best to immediately store it into the star domain and let the sapling's main body nourish it. However, the Omega Kotoku was sitting here, so it naturally wasn't suitable to do this. Arbor knitted her brows and pondered in her heart. That bastard Long Yun had already seen through her conscience not being sealed. She wondered if he would inform Chin Exen of this. Forget it, she would just take one step at a time. Arbor stared at him for a while. His fingers twitched slightly, and he let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Long Yun's special ability, poison, could only make her body weak for a while and could not lock her movements for a long time. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Otherwise, I would have fallen into this vile person's trap. Sir Jojo used a bit of strength to adjust his body slightly. At the same time, the wilted sapling had already jumped onto Charles' shoulder. In a very human-like manner, he peeked out from behind her neck and sneakily glanced at the Omega Kotoku. Chin Exen glanced over indifferently. The sapling immediately became terrified and hid in Arbor's waterfall-like black silk, wishing that it could immediately merge with its master. Little Ball pitifully wiped his tears in the star domain. Master, our little seven is too pitiful. Why don't you keep it in your storage talisman first? Arbor raised his left hand with difficulty, straightened his body, and asked expressionlessly, "What do you want to do by telling me this?" "I want to work with you. Don't you hate the heavenly fortune? What a coincidence, I've actually long been tired of this organization. I can work with you and help you completely destroy it. But you," Chin Exen suddenly grabbed her hand. "Promise me, let us return to the past, okay?" Arbor looked at him with a stunned expression. Was this person possessed by a demon? Chapter 55:28. What nonsense are you talking about? Go back, how do I go back, what do I take back? Chin Exen. Do you still remember? When I carried you out of the dark dungeon, when I carried you out, you looked at me, didn't you? Arbor's whole body trembled. Even if it was a long time ago, she was no longer the same person. But every time she thought of the past, she would always feel a bit of fear. She struggled to pull her hand out, angrily glaring at the person in front of her. Chin Exen did not notice her angry expression, nor did he notice that her hand had already been pulled away. He continued to recall the past, as if intoxicated by the memories, unable to extricate himself. He grasped the air, muttering to himself, "Xiao Qiao, it's okay if you don't remember, I can tell you bit by bit. When I carried you out of the dungeon, not only did you look at me, you also opened your mouth and said your first words to me. Thank you. You said thank you to me, do you still remember? Arbor's movements were not very nimble, but she still instinctively shrank her body, trying to avoid contact with this lunatic in front of her. Yes, she felt like this Omega Kotoku was crazy. His mouth was full of nonsense, inexplicable. What time was it now? She was already married, living so well, she even had a child. Was he crazy? Inexplicably talking about the past with her, or the messy past of her previous life, she did not want to recall the things from the beginning. This person was as stubborn and unreasonable as always. In his heart, he was always thinking about himself, never thinking about other people. If it was Jojo's lotus, she would definitely not force Jojo like this. Xiao Qiao, if you don't say anything, I'll take it that you agree. Qin Exen suddenly reached out to grab her shoulder, shaking it a bit, his eyes flashing with an abnormal flame. Xiao Mu simply did not have time to say anything before she saw this man walking out in a huff. I'll go make arrangements right now. Don't worry, it won't be long before everything you want will be realized. Arbor tried to raise her hand, trying for about a quarter of an hour, then suddenly clenched it into a fist. Rotten peach blossoms, come out quickly. In a flash, Hu Jinshin appeared in front of her. Jojo, it's too dangerous here. You should follow me back to the star field and hide for a while. Looking at Omega Kotoku's reaction just now, he was simply crazy. He couldn't leave Jojo in such a dangerous place again. When the Crown Prince attacked, they would then coordinate with him from the inside. That would be more appropriate. Arbor blinked. You and Mayan, help me find soul remembrance. I'll stay here for the time being. Arbor hurriedly interrupted Mayan Chen's words and tugged at his sleeve. If that pervert takes another step forward, I will immediately return to the star field. The venerable peach blossom divinity was a bit worried and stared at her little stoic face. I think he's a bit crazy. I can't be at ease leaving you here alone. Arbor pursed his lips. He is indeed a lunatic, but no matter how crazy he is, he won't kill me. He still wants to go back to the past with me. If he kills me, everything will be gone. At most, he'll cripple my arms and legs. Arbor suddenly realized with a start that she seemed to have said something strange, and her small face instantly paled. Jojo! Hu Jinshin furrowed his brows and hurriedly reached out to pull her. What's wrong? Mimi? She actually said something like that just now. Why would she say Omega Kotoku crippled her arms and legs? Strange. Chapter 55-29. His mood immediately tensed up because of this. What nonsense was he spouting? Arbor blinked and tugged at Peach Blossom. Go quickly. Since you're here, if you can't find my soul remembrance, it'll be a loss. Seeing him stare at him without moving, Arbor couldn't help but sigh helplessly. He took out a pill from his pouch and sniffed it. Look, I still have this Saint Rank body forging pill. If he were to go crazy and break my limbs, then I would be able to reforge my bones and regenerate them without any effort. Ji-Chen looked at her helplessly. This girl had been like this since the first day he met her. She had a deadpan expression and said ridiculous things that weren't funny at all. After Holy Sun Mi Yen came out, he glanced outside the window. There was no one outside at the moment. The guards arranged by Omega Kotoku had already been taken down by Long Yun. They would probably arrange for someone to come over later. Go quickly, you two. Be careful, Ji-Chen and Jojo said in unison and looked at each other. Venerable Peach Blossom tugged at Holy Sun Mi Yen and the two quickly left. Arbor stared at the bone-forging pill in his hand for a long time and suddenly asked, after eating it, when will the effects take effect? It can be suppressed for 3 days at most, the little Treant said weakly. Xiao Mu had Qiuqiu stealthily drag Fragment Little Seven's frail body back before saying, then I'll eat it. Master, if you take it, there's no turning back. Qiuqiu hurriedly added, aren't you afraid of pain? I have to overcome whatever I'm afraid of. Otherwise, I'll be troubled for the rest of my life. Arbor calmly threw the pill into his mouth. The Saint Rank pill melted in his mouth without feeling anything. Qiuqiu was now full of stars in the star domain. Master, I think you're really great. Sikong Fuling truly hadn't expected that she would become the vanguard of the Heavenly Fate army and lead several thousand harpies to launch a sneak attack on the Tsangzhou barracks. But since this was her big brother's order, she could only do as he said. In the middle of the night, according to the original plan, she was leading a group of harpies to attack the Tsang prefecture camp. Who would have thought that they would be greeted by the bombardment of the God's stone cannon? The one leading the team was none other than Mu Xingqian. Sikong Fuling had a slight headache looking at this, but she still proceeded according to the plan in an orderly manner. So the Tsangzhou emperor had already received the news and knew that they would attack at night? Very good. Sikong Fuling raised her hand and waved. The eagle-bodied crowd that had been following her in an orderly manner suddenly let out hoarse roars. Standing in front of the big tent, he calmly looked at the two people in the distant sky. He couldn't help but frown slightly. Duan Yu raised his hand indifferently. Immediately, thousands of God-tier masters leaped forward and formed a defensive wall under the cover of the defensive glyph formation. At the same time, that group of harpies suddenly ignited with raging flames, and they plummeted from the sky one after another. Duan Yu curled his lips and said apathetically, "It's truly surprising that Sikong Fuling would take the lead. I thought that if she and her brother were smart enough, they would hide behind the Heavenly Fate army and wait for them to make the first move." Chapter 55-30. I didn't expect it. Sikong Fuling is actually the first to come. Duan Yu couldn't resist shaking his head. The numerous burning harpies swooped down from the sky and transformed themselves into large fireballs. They burned themselves and threw themselves into the camp. They actually used such a tragic method to attack them, foolishly sacrificing themselves to kill 1,000 enemies. Get into formation. Rong Qing, who was standing at the front, calmly ordered. The large group of elites from the three provinces had long become accustomed to cooperating with each other after long periods of training. All he needed to do was give the order, and all the positions and coordination would fall into place. A large-scale defensive formation was erected around the camp in a matter of minutes. No matter how many fireballs the harpies rained down from above, it was to no avail. These attacks were all blocked by everyone's defensive formation. Boom! At the same time, an earth-shattering explosion came from behind them. Hui Feng and the others' expressions changed. When they turned around, they saw Prince Mo flying towards that rapidly descending figure. Soon, Duan Yu also flew over. The three figures were as fast as shooting stars, and it didn't take them long to reach a mountain range near the kingdom of Qingzhou. Vassal Prince Rong knitted his brows and said aloofly, "Ignore them. Get into formation and continue exterminating the harpies." With His Majesty and the Crown Prince of the Divine Province's cultivation levels, they would definitely succeed if they joined hands. Rong Qing had already seen who the newcomers were with a startling glance just now. Although the current master of the Sea of Forgetfulness was very formidable, he couldn't possibly be a match for those two. Sikong Fuling could also clearly see her elder brother being chased away by those two from Tsangzhou and the Divine Province. She was a bit worried and reflexively clenched her fists. She had to break out of here as soon as possible and then rendezvous with her elder brother. Mu Xingqian stood at the front of the crowd and was currently gazing at the dense crowd of harpies in the sky. He clenched his fingers and made a hand gesture. The divine stone cannons lined up behind him started a new round of bombardment. Young Master Mu. Qi Ba raised his hand, and two Godrealm cannoneers quickly trotted over, pushing two extraordinary sacred stone cannons whose muzzles were forged from pure black crystals. Mu Xingqian's pupils contracted, and his gaze landed on these two sacred stone cannons. The power of the Saint Stone Cannon was far beyond that of the Divine Stone Cannon. If this cannon were to land, it was likely that the half-harpy would vanish into thin air. Then Sikong Fuling, Mu Xingqian's heart was filled with mixed feelings. This young lady in front of him was really a pity. Eighth young Master Qi did not notice Mu Xingqian's expression. Of course, even if he discovered something, he wouldn't say much. Everything had to go according to the plan. Once someone attacked their camp, what awaited them was death and a baptism of blood. These two holy stone cannons were the only gifts brought by the crown prince of the divine land. They were specially prepared for these rascals. Speaking of which, the crown prince of the divine land was really surprising and exciting. He still remembered that when His Majesty saw this big gift, his eyes couldn't help but light up. The holy stone cannon was a divine weapon secretly refined by the crown prince of Shenzhou. At that time, His Majesty's eyes were probably saying, "This thing is so awesome." Boom. Rumble. The two Saint Stone cannons aimed at the sky and fired for the first time in history. Sikong Fuling's expression abruptly changed, and she immediately pulled 3 harpies to block in front of her. Chapter 55:31. Sikong Fuling's body involuntarily fell, and she stomped on the ground. When she landed, the 3 harpies who were hit by the shrapnel from the holy stone cannon were reduced to cannon fodder and were reduced to ashes before her eyes. Sikong Fuling's expression changed instantly, and she looked at Mu Xingchen, who was standing at the front of the crowd, with a complicated expression. "Mu Xingchen, I didn't expect that you and I would meet in the end." Mu Xingchen nodded. "Miss Sikong, you have your position and I have mine. Unfortunately, we are still on opposing sides." Actually, he didn't understand either. The river of forgetfulness could clearly remain neutral and watch from afar, not even interfering in this matter. This was originally a battle between the 3 states and the heavenly providence. Why would the river of forgetfulness interfere? Wasn't this especially strange? Sikong Fuling stared at him with a somewhat complicated gaze. "Mu Xingchen, you are a good person. Unfortunately, I have no choice." Mu Xingchen, who was inexplicably labeled as a good person, glanced indifferently at Sikong Fuling. "Miss Sikong, you really have no choice? Actually, you made your choice long ago." "I can't say anything. Actually, everyone is the same. If it were me today, I would also stand in the same position and help my younger sister." So Sikong Fuling stood by Long Yun's side and helped her elder brother without hesitation. To put it bluntly, there was nothing wrong with that. It was really just a difference in their standpoints. My elder brother, he actually didn't want to join the heavenly providence. He did this. I kind of understand but also don't. Sikong Fuling laughed self-deprecatingly. But so what? I'm already standing here, and there's no turning back. Mu Xingchen, if I die in this battle, I hope that one day, when you think of me, your heart won't be entirely filled with hatred and disappointment toward me. I hope that you can at least think about the predicament we were in the realm of misfortune that day. Mu Xingchen smiled faintly. Think about how you miserably evaded that black dragon? The two looked at each other and smiled. Sikong Fuling suddenly raised her hand, and mournful howls came from the air. Boom. Boom boom boom. The 2 Saint Stone cannons fired again without hesitation. Although each shot consumed a lot of Saint Stones, which made young Master Chi's heart bleed and his hands tremble slightly. But the effect, that's great. The fireballs of the harpies falling from the sky did not even have time to hit their defensive shields. With one shot, hundreds of fireballs immediately turned into ashes and dissipated into the air. The elites of the 3 prefectures, who were guarding the ground, held their breaths and waited quietly. When they saw the scene in front of them, they couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Kill! With a stern shout, Mu Xingchen was the first to leap forward, the long sword in his hand slashing towards Sikong Fuling without any explanation. But Sikong Fuling abruptly jumped up and ran in the direction of the rear mountain like a madwoman. The battle on that side was actually more intense than here. Although Mo Lien was battling Long Yun alone, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed, causing the sun and moon to dim. As an onlooker, darling Duanyu cheered for the crown prince from time to time while watching from the sidelines. For example, "Do you need help? Say it earlier if you need help. Mo Lien, can you do it or not? If you can't, hurry and call me." Chapter 55:32. Aya, that was a good slap. Quick, quick, give him another stab. My heavens, Long Yun, you punk, you're too shameless. You actually used poison? Mo Lien, are you all right? Emo Lien was about to die from this guy's incessant chatter. She really wanted to ask, "Are you freaking not here to be more of a hindrance? Don't tell me you're possessed by malice and want me to perish together with Long Yun so that you can sit and reap the of the fisherman." Long Yun was also about to be annoyed to death by Duan Yu. This person was crazy, right? Every time he attacked, that guy would clamor from the side. Didn't he see that he was the one at a disadvantage? Why did he cheer when Emolian hit him, but he was unhappy when he hit Emolian? A pair of lunatics. He swung his hand to release a pair of heavenly birds, which swooped down to chase after Emolian. Emolian's eyes chilled, and she immediately summoned 7th Yen as well. At the same time, Duan Yu also hastily released his chestnut and pointed at the 2 heavenly birds in the distance. The 8-tailed heavenly fox glanced at its master, unable to bear to look at it. It gave an irritated howl and pounced at one of the heavenly birds. Long Yun's expression was unsightly. "Didn't you say you would just watch if you didn't attack?" Duan Yu nodded seriously, and his beautiful peach blossom eyes blinked. "I didn't attack. Aren't I still standing here?" At the same time, Emo Lien took advantage of this opportunity to fling away Long Yun's hand with her sword, suddenly leaving a bloody gash on his arm. Blood gushed out and dripped down Long Yun's arm. In an instant, his gaze was incomparably malicious as he stared at Emo Lien and muttered to himself. In a split second, the enormous apparition of a fire-qilin-fanged snake rose behind him. The snake's mouth was slightly open, and it fiercely flicked out its forked tongue, releasing a loud hiss. Emo Lien's gaze was chilly as she stood there unmoving. A pitch-black lotus flower appeared in his left palm. The moment the shadow of the fire-qilin-fanged snake pressed down, the ink-colored lotus rose steadily and bloomed. Suddenly, as if it had come to life, it slightly twisted its leaves and scuttled over. Duan Yu's eyes brightened. This must be the ancient Emo Lien, right? There had always been a rumor that the crown prince of the divine land had inherited the power of the ancient Emo Lien, and his power was extraordinary. It was also his first time seeing the true appearance of the ancient Emo Lien. Powerful, powerful. Indeed, it was hard to find a match in this world. Emo Lien, this brat, with such a powerful force in his hands, was playing around with Long Yun from the beginning. It was really annoying. The leaves of the ancient black lotus suddenly shattered, and specks of black cold stars shot towards the fire-qilin-fanged snake's phantom like meteor fragments or the moon covered in black frost. In a split second, the sound of wind whistling could be heard, and the surroundings were as silent as an abyss. The fire-qilin-fanged snake's gaping mouth was hit by the countless cold star fragments, and it immediately writhed back and forth in pain. The black shadow gradually fell apart along with the exploding cold star fragments, completely shattering into a pile of fine powder. Emo Lien's phoenix eyes were unperturbed, and his handsome face revealed an icy intent. A merciless black flame appeared in his hand, and he abruptly disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he had already torn through the air and teleported in front of Long Yun. The merciless black flame formed an incomparably pitch-black supreme divine sword that pressed against Long Yun's throat. "Don't think about it if it's not yours." The man's lips twitched as he coldly spat out these words. Chapter 55-33. The divine sword formed by the black fire instantly penetrated the other party's glabella, and the latter let out a wretched scream. His figure paused and abruptly rolled back and forth on the ground. His entire body was enveloped by dense black fire. Darling Duan Yu, who was standing on the side, couldn't resist patting his chest. So scary, what a scary stinky lotus. She actually used the black fire to mercilessly destroy the other party's conscience. She didn't give the other party any hope at all. Although she didn't kill him, wasn't it more tragic than killing him to completely sever his cultivation path and completely destroy that person's conscience? Thank goodness, Duan Yu was scared to death, scared to death, scared to death. Emo Lien stood up with icy eyes and coldly swept a glance at Long Yun on the ground. She turned to leave with a frown. Long Yun clutched his chest and looked up. He stared intently at her departing figure and suddenly started laughing like a madman. You think you've won? Ha! He abruptly opened his mouth and spat out a snake gallbladder. This was the gallbladder he absorbed when fusing with the fire Qilin fanged snake. Now, it had fused with his lifetime of cultivation. Our dear Duan Yu's eyes chilled, and he abruptly raised his hand. Thousands of arrows shot out from behind him like lightning bolts and swiftly swept past Emo Lien, heading in Long Yun's direction in unison. Thousands of arrows shot out in unison. Emo Lien narrowed her eyes and slightly tilted her head. She stared at a flying arrow forged from fine iron that abruptly brushed past her eyes. Each arrow was imbued with a god realm cultivation and spirit energy of various colors. Duan Yu, this guy, completely didn't want Long Yun to live. After a burst of wind, Long Yun hastily heard a sharp female cry, "Big brother." He felt a warm body suddenly pressing down on him. Countless arrows ruthlessly pierced that woman's body and even pierced the skin on his chest. But most of the arrows were blocked by Sikong Fuling. Long Yun's hands trembled slightly as he softly called out, "Fuling." "Miss Sikong." Mu Xingchen, who had rushed over with his men, stared blankly at the scene before him. Sikong Fuling was firmly pressed against Long Yun's body, and her back had already been pierced by countless arrows brimming with various spiritual powers. Everyone saw that her body was like a deflated balloon, and blood was oozing out of her body. The various spiritual energies in his body were also colliding with each other, fiercely colliding with each other. Eldest brother. Blood continued to seep out from the corner of Sikong Fuling's mouth. Long Yun's hands trembled as he tried to wipe it off for her. However, the more he wiped, the more turbulent it became. Boom! Under the impact of the crisscrossing spiritual power in her body, Sikong Fuling suddenly disintegrated and completely exploded like an exploding ball. Fu Ling! Miss Sikong! Mu Xingchen clenched his fists slightly. For a moment, all sorts of emotions welled up in his heart. Duan Yu tilted his head. Suddenly, two heavenly birds screeched and desperately escaped from Seventh Yen and Chestnut's hands. They were riddled with wounds and mournful cries as they swooped down, carrying Long Yun on their backs as they staggered away. Duan Yu suddenly tugged at Emo Lien's sleeve. "Forget it, don't chase them." Long Yun's conscience was damaged and could no longer do anything. Although Sikong Fuling had blocked countless arrows, it wasn't as if he hadn't been hit. Now that he had lost his divine conscience, his cultivation was damaged. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.